because I'm totally used to the real versus fake young master drama. The very first thing I did after returning to this wealthy family was confront the four sisters who were shielding the fake young master. I straight up said, if you guys don't want to treat me as your real brother, I have no intention of recognizing you as my sisters either. Since in your hearts Mushuan is your only real brother, then he's the only brother you'll ever have. If you want to keep him around, go right ahead. Just don't come messing with me in the future. These words made the faces of the four Mu family heiresses change drastically. Both Father Mu and Peishweru were shocked and anxious. Looking at Peishweru's distressed expression, I sighed, you and Dad shouldn't overthink this. Since I was willing to come back, that means I genuinely recognize you two as my parents. But that's strictly limited to you two. I have zero interest in kissing anyone else's ass. I am after all the noble young master of Wang Zicheng. It has always been others trying to kiss up to me. When has it ever been my turn to just swallow my pride, let alone wrong myself just to please someone else? Since I've taken over Mu Chen's body, it counts as forming a karmic bond with him. Father Mu and Peishweru are genuinely good to me, so I will naturally show them proper filial piety and treat them as my actual birth parents. As for the rest of them, we'll just see how it goes. In the silence, a sudden sobbing sound rang out. Everyone at the dining table involuntarily looked over. There was Mushuan, eyes red, crying out, Dad, Mom, sisters. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Brother, please don't blame our sisters. Before he could even finish his words, I cut him off completely without any hesitation. All right. Stop crying and throwing a pity party here. Do you think you are performing on a grand stage? Even if you love putting on a show, I don't have the spare time to listen. What exactly do you want? At worst, I'll just leave and give your family back your happiness. As I spoke, I made a move as if I were about to get up and leave. Mushane's face turned completely red from my call-out, and he was instantly rendered speechless. Xiao Chen, what nonsense are you talking about, child? This is your biological family. How can you just say you're leaving like that? Peishweru anxiously and hurriedly spoke up, reaching out to tightly grab my wrist, utterly terrified that I would actually leave if I got upset. This place will always be your home. You can do whatever you want here. In this house, nobody has the right to criticize you. After saying that, she secretly glared at her daughters. Giving birth to daughters really is like raising debt collectors. Father Mu also glared fiercely at his daughters. Exactly. You are the master of this house. Whoever finds you an eyesore can pack up and get out themselves. From now on, just live however makes you comfortable. Let's see who dares to have even a single objection against you. The attitude of the Mu parents made me very satisfied. At least this couple knows how to prioritize properly. If the two of them were also muddle-headed fools who insisted on wronging their biological son just to favor an adopted one, then my attitude toward them in the future would be just lukewarm. Mushuan felt awkward, wronged, and incredibly sad, wishing he could instantly disappear and leave this place. However, he simply didn't have the guts to do it. He was no longer the young master of the Mu family. Now he was merely an adopted son living under someone else's roof. Thinking about this made him feel even more miserable. Peishweru looked at Mushuan and comforted him softly. Xiaoshuan, don't cry here either. Didn't we already talk about this matter before? Xiao Chen is Xiao Chen, and you are still you. There is no conflict between the two of you at all. Just stay at home with peace of mind. Mushuan was still sobbing nonstop. I just feel like I've wronged my brother too much. Having just taken a bite of food, my movements paused. Are you ever going to cut it out? You keep saying you feel like you've wronged me. Yet, I haven't seen you take the initiative to leave the Mu family. Since you've already chosen to stay, stop always wearing that wronged face. It's honestly pretty disgusting to look at. Also, I am not your brother. Please just call me by my name from now on. Of course, I could see what Mushuan was scheming. Isn't he just trying to act all wronged and pitiful, so everyone will feel bad for him and protect him? This kind of low-tier method isn't even worth looking at. If he loves acting, I'll just let him act all he wants. But if he refuses to accept face and acts completely clueless, then he shouldn't blame me for not showing our parents any respect when the time comes. The expression on Mushuan's face froze instantly, making him feel as if he had been slapped in public. His face flushed red and pale in turns, and he was about to explode with pure rage inside. But he couldn't throw a tantrum in front of everyone. After being heavily roasted by me so bluntly in public, if he kept acting wronged, it would look way too forced. Mu Yue was the youngest among the four sisters, and her temper and personality were usually the most hot-headed. Seeing this, she immediately wanted to speak up and defend Mushuan. But Mu Wanting held her back with a death grip. Mu Wanting looked at me sitting across from her, her eyes filled with curiosity and scrutiny. This younger brother really seems a bit special. Mu Wanting's eyes flickered slightly. Welcome back to this family. What Mom and Dad just said is absolutely right. From now on, this place is your home. Just live however makes you comfortable in the future. And you completely don't need to care about others' feelings. Today's matter was indeed our oversight. We thought you and Dad wouldn't get home so soon. So the few of us went out to run some errands. Please don't overthink it in your heart. The few of us are actually very happy you're home. I gave her a casual glance and didn't reply. Seeing his eldest daughter take the initiative to state her stance, Father Mu's expression finally softened a bit. He turned around and ordered the nearby servant to keep serving the dishes. Today, they had specifically ordered the kitchen to prepare a feast, and all kinds of flavors were prepared, just because they didn't know what I liked to eat. By the way, where did Xiao Chen live before? Where are his former family members? How should these relationships be handled in the future? It was Mu Wanting who suddenly thought of something, and asked as if she were just casually bringing it up. After asking, she noticed Father Mu's face darken slightly. Mu Wanting's heart stirred a bit. Dad, why did you suddenly stop talking? Is there some unspeakable secret about this matter? We are already a family now. So our brother's business is naturally our business. You really don't need to keep hiding it from us. It looks like this dinner can't be enjoyed properly anymore. If you want to know, you might as well just ask me directly. I picked up a napkin and gently wiped the corner of my mouth. I was adopted by an old Taoist priest when I was a kid, and I had been living in a dilapidated Taoist temple. That temple was built on a remote, deserted mountain. The conditions were terrible, and there were usually no pilgrims or donations. My master and I could barely fill our stomachs. So I've never gone to a formal school before. Learning characters and reading were all taught to me by my master in the temple. From childhood to adulthood, I rarely went down the mountain. My master passed away 3 months ago due to old age. After he left, I lived in the temple by myself, until Dad finally found me a while ago and brought me back here. Pausing slightly, I then added, that temple is completely closed now. After all, I'm no longer there. Of course, if I ever want to go back someday, I can go back alone and continue living there. I summed up my past experience in just a few words. My tone remained completely calm and detached from start to finish, with no complaints or crying in my words, let alone any blaming of fate. Yet, Pei Shuaru and Father Mu felt incredibly heartbroken listening to it. The couple involuntarily teared up. Mu Wanting and her 3 sisters were also stunned, their feelings complicated. They didn't expect that while they didn't know their real brother, who was supposed to be the noble young master of the Mu family and should have been held in the palm of the whole family's hands, was living like that. Mu Yue couldn't help but feel a bit guilty, thinking her attitude just now was indeed way too much. Seeing this, Mu Xuan screamed internally that things were going south. He concluded that I must be an incredibly calculating guy, and the words I just said were clearly on purpose, intentionally playing the pity card to win everyone's sympathy. By reflex, he wanted to open his mouth to apologize again, but he suddenly remembered my attitude just now and forced the words back down his throat. He changed his wording, switching to a phrase he thought was clever. Xiao Chen, now that you've come home, your life ahead will definitely get better and better. You've just returned to this house, so you must not be used to it yet. If there's anything you're unfamiliar with or don't understand, you can come find me anytime. I will definitely do my absolute best to help you. If you don't mind and are willing, I can take you out to look around, so you can get familiar with the environment here as soon as possible. All right then, thank you. Pei Shuaru held my hand tightly and also said these words, her eyes filled with intense heartbreak and guilt. Mom, I'm fine. My master and I actually had a good time before. Although the living conditions were indeed a bit rough, the temple was very quiet and comfortable. My master was an old man who really doted on me. From childhood to adulthood, I actually lived a very happy life. The words I just said weren't a lie. The real Mu Chen indeed used to live a very happy life. For all these years, although the living conditions in the temple weren't great, his master had always doted on him completely, doing everything in his power to give him the absolute best. Moreover, there were barely any people at the temple normally, so the social relationships around him were incredibly simple and pure. He lived his daily life completely carefree. When he felt lonely as a kid, he would play with animals on the back mountain, having a blast playing in the mountains all by himself. His days were carefree and without a single worry. Mu Chen once said he never felt it was bitter to him. The true bitterness was when his master fell terminally ill, and nothing could be done to save him. His master was his only family in this world, the final anchor for all his emotions and spirit. It was also his first time tasting the pain of life and death separation. After his master passed away, he guarded the temple all by himself, without a single person around to share his inner thoughts with. Every day was spent in pure miserable isolation. Half a month before Father Mu found him, Mu Chen went to the back mountain to gather firewood and accidentally fell off a cliff. He was all alone on that remote, deserted mountain. Nobody even knew about his fall, and so he just died there silently. After his death, his soul went straight to Wangzicheng, and I just happened to return to the city to handle daily affairs, where I met Mu Chen's soul and discovered his bizarre destiny. According to his birth chart and facial features, he was supposed to have a fate of immense wealth and smooth sailing, an extremely rare destiny blessed with both fortune and longevity. This kind of destiny is usually a karmic reward for accumulating virtue across lifetimes. Yet now he happened to appear in Wangzicheng, which proved he had unfortunately met a violent death outside. The destiny that rightfully belonged to him had been artificially altered. Coincidentally, some major trouble arose in Wangzicheng recently, and I needed to personally make a trip to the mortal realm. So I took the initiative to strike a fair deal with him. I would borrow Mu Chen's identity in the mortal world to do my business, each of us getting what we needed. That's how everything I experienced today at the Mu family came to be. But they definitely wouldn't believe what I just said, especially Father Mu and Pei Shuero, who only felt all the more that their biological son was a considerate and kind-hearted good kid. They thought these words were spoken just to comfort them. In their hearts, they were aching for their pitiful biological son. He was clearly born with the fate of a wealthy young master, yet he was stranded outside, suffering for over a decade for absolutely nothing. From now on, they vowed they must double their compensation to their real son. The atmosphere at the dining table turned heavy because of my words, with everyone harboring their own complex thoughts. The four Mu family sisters didn't continue looking for trouble either, all keeping their heads down and eating their food quietly. Father Mu and Pei Shuero put 100% of their attention on me, asking gently from time to time if the food suited my taste. Zhao Chen, which dish do you prefer? Do you want mom to scoop some hot soup for you? They were looking after me with absolute meticulous care. Mu Xuan, who was sitting to the side, had a face full of unmitigated disappointment. Seeing this, Mu Yue wanted to speak up several times, but whenever her gaze swept over me, her real brother, she suddenly recalled the words I said earlier, and the words at the tip of her tongue were involuntarily swallowed back down. I focused solely on enjoying the delicious feast on the table. But this scene fell into the eyes of the Mu family and took on a completely different meaning. Pei Shuero looked at me with tearful eyes, her heart aching to an absolute extreme. One look and she could tell that when her son was on the mountain before, he definitely rarely had the chance to eat such a lavish and delicious meal. After all, living in a dilapidated temple on a remote, deserted mountain slope, one could easily imagine how harsh the living conditions were. Being able to fill one's stomach every day was already considered a luxury, so how could there be any opportunity to taste any delicacies from land and sea? Pei Shuero had already made up her mind secretly. From now on, she would switch things up every day to make food for me. After dinner, the children all sat properly in the living room. Father Mu claimed this was to bond with me since I just got home. I sat comfortably right in the middle of the living room's large leather sofa, staring with great interest at the massive LCD TV directly ahead. Watching the scenes on the screen with relish. Zhao Chen, do you really like watching TV? Pei Shuero asked me with a gentle smile. My eyes were glued straight to the TV, and I nodded vigorously. This TV set is really too interesting. The scenes inside are way more fascinating than watching an opera on stage. I haven't visited this bustling mortal world in a long time. I didn't expect the world today to have changed so drastically. I honestly feel like a country bumpkin who just entered the city. Looking at me like this, Pei Shuero's eyes welled up again. Her pitiful biological son, even though he's already grown so big, has actually never even watched TV properly. Just as she was thinking this, the show on the TV suddenly cut to commercials. Seeing this, Pei Shuero immediately picked up the remote control from the table. Zhao Chen, let mom change the channel for you. The drama you were just watching finished airing for today. Let's switch channels to see other programs. There are plenty of other good and interesting TV shows. I nodded obediently, acting like an incredibly well-behaved and docile kid. Pei Shuero casually pressed the remote to flip the channel. Seeing that the next channel was airing a family drama, she put down the remote control in her hand. But after just a short while, everyone in the family looked completely awkward, especially Mu Xuan sitting to the side, whose fair, delicate face instantly turned bright red, his eyes filled with uncontrollable shame, anger, and grievance. Things were just that coincidental. The plot playing out on the TV happened to be the classic real versus fake young master drama, a story about two kids whose identities were accidentally swapped at birth. And today, it just so happened to air the episode where the real young master is brought back. Pei Shuero was also completely stunned looking at the TV screen. I just casually switched the channel, and the plot broadcasting on the screen is identical to our family's situation. This scene is straight up peak awkwardness. In the drama, the protagonist is brought back by his biological parents, but the real son returns while the adopted one stays. Far from sending the adopted son away, they spoiled him even more, treating him better than their own biological son, holding the adopted son like a precious treasure, while the biological son is treated like dirt. In the living room, an intensely awkward atmosphere instantly filled the air. To make matters worse, I casually commented, "Wow, how come people in this world don't care about their own biological son and favor an adopted one instead? Though it's only natural to be attached. After raising him by their side for so many years, they still shouldn't wrong their own flesh and blood." I shook my head repeatedly, expressing my confusion. The Mu family felt like I was throwing shade, but unfortunately they had no proof. Although they didn't send Mu Xuan away, they definitely weren't playing favorites, let alone neglecting or wronging Mu Chen. They were indeed attached to Mu Xuan. After all, they had raised him for over 10 years. Emotions build up over time. It's impossible to just throw him out on a whim. But they could clearly distinguish who comes first, and Mu Xuan would never surpass Mu Chen. So they assumed Mu Chen was merely critiquing the TV drama, and definitely wasn't target firing at them. Even if he really was throwing shade, he was shading the sisters. Father Mu and Pei Shuiru comforted themselves secretly, hiding the guilt deep down in their hearts. They actually thought about sending Mu Xuan away at first. Since Mu Xuan is almost an adult, they could buy a house for him outside, send him living expenses on time, and support him until he graduates from college. But the daughters fiercely opposed it and tried their best to stop them. Plus, they themselves soft-hearted it too. Father Mu glared fiercely at his daughters. Mu Xuan really couldn't bear to stay any longer. Covering his face, he sobbed softly, turned around and ran all the way upstairs. I looked over with a look of pure confusion. What's wrong with him now? Mu Yue kept a sullen face, forcing herself not to make a sound. Pei Shuiru smiled a bit forcedly. It's nothing. He's probably just not used to it yet. My brows furrowed slightly. Then if I move back to live here from now on, is he going to cry every single day? Won't that be annoying as hell? Pei Shuiru was instantly choked up by my words, feeling a wave of exhaustion in her heart. Did you do that on purpose? Mu Yue finally couldn't hold it in. I immediately shifted my gaze over, blinking my eyes innocently. Did what on purpose? Mu Yue glared at me, gritting her teeth. You deliberately provoked him just now. Mom and Dad already said they would properly make it up to you. What else are you dissatisfied with? Do you have to force Mu Xuan away to be happy? Now I finally understood what she was getting at. I tossed the remote control onto the table with a thud and stood straight up, staring coldly at Mu Yue. Then are you trying to force me away? Just to make way for your precious brother. I can't even speak in my own home anymore. Even talking has to cater to the fake young master's feelings. After saying that, I turned around and left. The living room instantly fell deathly silent. Father Mu was so furious that he stormed over, giving his youngest daughter a piece of his mind, scolding Mu Yue until she repeatedly begged for mercy. I'm warning you guys right now, if you ever treat Mu Chen with this kind of attitude again, I will kick every single one of you out. His expression became incredibly severe. You all need to understand that Mu Chen is your real brother, your actual biological brother born from the same parents. In this whole mess of him and Mu Xuan swapping identities, he is way more innocent than Mu Xuan. You guys only worry about Mu Xuan feeling wronged. But why don't you think about how much your real brother was wronged all these years, and how much hardship he had to endure? The Mu family doesn't mind continuing to raise Mu Xuan, but he can absolutely never cross Mu Chen. Father Mu's gaze locked onto his youngest daughter, his face extremely dark. You and Mu Xuan are close in age, and you've been the closest since childhood. I can understand you shielding him, but you must be perfectly clear about one thing. Mu Chen didn't do anything wrong, and he doesn't owe any of you a damn thing. I'm only saying these words once. In the future, whoever dares to make Mu Chen sad again, just watch if I don't skin them alive. Mu Yue's mouth twitched slightly, feeling like those words were directly targeted at her. Dad, please don't worry. We know our boundaries when handling things. Mu Wanting spoke up, explaining today's matter once again. We thought you guys wouldn't arrive so early, which is why we agreed to go watch his competition. If I had known you guys would be back early, I definitely wouldn't have gone to watch the match. Mu Rolan and Mu Yakin nodded in agreement. These two were twin sisters. Father Mu and Pei Shuiru went upstairs with sullen faces, leaving the four sisters looking at each other in the living room. Eldest sister, don't you think? Our new brother seems a bit... Mu Rolan paused for a moment, taking a while to find the right word to describe the brother who had just returned home. Unique, his personality is pretty unique. Mu Wanting recalled the events of tonight and nodded her head in deep agreement. He's definitely not someone who takes things lying down. His sharp tongue can straight up roast someone to death. But he didn't seem to do it on purpose, nor did he intend to provoke anyone. He just speaks whatever is on his mind, and simply doesn't know how to be tactful. His personality is just a bit too direct. As she thought about their other brother's behavior, her brows couldn't help but furrow. Mu Chen is indeed way too sensitive. If he keeps acting like this from now on, and doesn't adjust his mindset in time, the one who will suffer and feel miserable will still be himself. Just like Dad said just now, even if we've lived with him for over a decade and have deep feelings that make us favor him, it's impossible for us time and time again to wrong our biological brother for his sake. So this mindset absolutely has to change. Mu Wanting turned her head to look at Mu Yue. You have the deepest bond with Mu Xuan, and your ages are also the closest. You should go talk to him properly. You guide and comfort him well, and tell him to stop overthinking things. With Mu Chen back, Mom and Dad will definitely favor him more, which is only human nature. But that doesn't mean they'll treat him like an outsider. He is still Mom and Dad's son. Although Mu Yue was young and impulsive, she was by no means a brainless person. She nodded seriously. I get it. Also, Mu Wanting's expression turned serious, showing her authority as the eldest sister. Fix your attitude toward Mu Chen from now on, or don't blame me for teaching you a lesson. After lecturing her youngest sister, Mu Wanting also got up and went back to her room. Mu Rolan and Mu Yakin looked at each other. Let's go. Mu Yue was incredibly frustrated. What kind of mess is this? We clearly all did it together. So why is it all my fault in the end? I couldn't care less about what the people downstairs thought. As soon as I got back to my room, I shut the door. The room was carefully prepared by the parents, exquisitely decorated. Both the design and the items were exactly the style that young guys like. Thank goodness it wasn't pink. Otherwise, staying in a room like that, I'm afraid I'd suffer from insomnia all night. Just as I entered the room, I noticed a strange ripple in the air. With a gentle wave of my hand, I set up a barrier around the room to avoid anyone sensing something unusual and causing unnecessary suspicion. Right after that, a man wearing a black robe and a little ghost mask appeared out of thin air in the room. The man walked over to me, dropped to one knee, and said, "Your Highness?" Looking at him, my brows furrowed. "Why are you here?" After asking, a bad premonition rose in my heart. As expected, the City Lord sent me to deliver a message. The lady has returned to Wang Zicheng. Hasn't she always been in the 6th hall? How long has it been since she last returned to Wang Zicheng? How come she returned right after I arrived in the mortal world? Before slipping out, I was still testing my luck, thinking that after she finished her business, she would just go straight back to report, and that my sister hadn't returned to Wang Zicheng yet. Who knew things wouldn't go as planned? I had just sneaked out on my front foot, and she followed right back on her hind foot. Thinking about the warnings she had given me before, a flash of guilt crossed my eyes. My sister had repeatedly warned me back then that I must absolutely never come to the mortal world without permission, and that handling affairs in the city must be discussed first. But I happened to cross paths with Mu Chen and felt the timing was just perfect. Taking advantage of my sister's absence, I arranged everything all by myself. With my sister's strict personality, I'm afraid I'm in for a massive lecture this time. Replying to Your Highness, the City Lord has already returned to Wang Zicheng, upon discovering that Your Highness came to the mortal world without permission. The Lord was extremely furious, so I was ordered to deliver this message. After saying that, he stood up and made a message-delivering gesture. A faint light flashed in midair, and an envelope materialized out of nowhere. Then the envelope slowly dissolved, and a line of words clearly emerged, floating with slight ripples in midair, before quickly dissipating into the air. Although the time frame was extremely short, I had already seen it crystal clear. It was called a line of words, but it was actually just 4 words arriving in a few days. This is really stressing me out. It's probably not a good idea for my sister to come to the mortal world, right? The masked man's voice had zero emotion. Your Highness, no one can change the Lord's decision, which basically meant I should stop daydreaming and just obediently get ready to welcome her. I instantly fell into silence. The man soon vanished from the room, like a deflated balloon. I felt completely drained. If the lady is coming over, how exactly does she plan to get here? If she comes in her capacity as the City Lord, that's fine, as she definitely won't be able to stay for long. Thinking like this, I reignited my hope. As for her settling scores with me later, I did it for the sake of Wang Zicheng too. Considering that point, she won't be too harsh on me. The 3rd day, when the Mu family came downstairs, they saw me in the living room watching TV, and their footsteps instantly came to a halt. They blinked their eyes hard and looked at the big clock in the living room. For a moment, everyone fell into silence. It was only a little past 6 a.m. Hearing the movement behind me, I got distracted from being engrossed in the TV, turned my head to look at the people coming downstairs, and casually greeted them, "Good morning." After greeting them, I instantly turned my head back to keep watching. That focused look made it seem like I didn't want to waste even a single second. Peishwaru froze for a moment, then snapped out of it, walked straight over to me, and slowly sat down by my side. She first took a glance at the TV screen, which was broadcasting the morning news. "Xiao Chen, since you love watching TV so much, how about Mom has someone install one in your room? That way you can watch it in your room too." Peishwaru just wanted to do whatever it took to fulfill all of her son's wishes right now. Hearing this, my eyes instantly lit up, and just as I was about to nod and agree, Yu Wanting, who was walking down from upstairs, spoke up right ahead of me. "Mom, that's not quite appropriate. If we install a TV in little brother's room, what if he watches it all night and doesn't sleep? He's still growing his body right now." Her saying this actually reminded the mother. Judging by her son's current addicted state, if a TV were installed in his room, he would definitely watch it all night long. That absolutely won't do. She quickly changed her words. It was Mom who didn't think it through. That indeed won't do. We can't let it affect Xiao Chen's rest. It's better to just watch it in the living room. Mom can also watch it with you, and we can even discuss the plot together. With my beautiful dream of watching TV all night shattered, I gave Mu Wanting a resentful look. This eldest sister must really dislike me, not even letting me watch a TV in peace. By comparison, it seems my lady sister is still somewhat better. Paishwaro noticed that her son was unhappy. She found it funny, but was also filled with heartbreak. Which kid nowadays doesn't play with smartphones? They don't care about TVs at all. Yet her son is so overjoyed by it. Who would believe this if it were told to others? She coaxed him in a soft and gentle voice. Installing it in the room is indeed inconvenient, and it affects your night's rest too much. You can't always stay in your room either. The room is meant for sleeping. If you like watching, just watch in the living room. No one at home likes watching TV, so no one will fight over it with you. I thought about it and understood the logic too. I nodded my head obediently and then emphasized one key point. Then you absolutely cannot fight over the remote with me. Peichiro couldn't help but chuckle softly, her gaze completely full of affection. Good, good, good. The TV at home belongs entirely to you alone. Whoever dares to fight for channels with you, I'll help you teach them a lesson. After saying that, she even gave a pointed glare at her daughters who were walking down the stairs, one after another. Miu Wanting's mouth twitched slightly. How long has it been since she last watched TV? How could she possibly fight with her little brother to watch TV? If anyone were to fight for it, it would be the fourth sister. Mu Wanting took a glance at her fourth sister. Mu Yue instantly reacted like her tail had been stepped on. Eldest sister, what are you staring at me for? Do you think I would fight over channels with him? She wasn't that childish. With her jumping up to talk back like this, I, who was sitting in the living room, Pei Shueru, the other three daughters of the Mu family, Mu Xuan, who had just come downstairs, and Father Mu all looked toward her, with different expressions in their eyes. I slowly added a final blow. Even if you want to compete with me, it depends on whether you have the skills. Pei Shueru instantly yelled at her youngest daughter. From now on, you are not allowed to fight over the TV with Xiao Chen. Did you hear me? If I find out you're bullying him, I'll have your dad dock all of your allowance, leaving you without a single penny. Mu Yue was instantly as aggrieved as a puffed-up frog, holding her cheeks with a face full of resentment. She glared at me several times, but I didn't even bother to glance at her out of the corner of my eye, making her so angry she didn't even want to eat breakfast anymore. Normal kids at this age are usually in their senior year of high school. Mu Xuan is supposed to take the college entrance exam next June, and logically speaking, Mu Chen should be doing the same. But he had been living in a Taoist temple before, never receiving a formal and systematic education. Yet his age is right there, so which grade should he start learning from? If he goes straight into senior year, can he even keep up? The school registration matter is easy to handle, but deciding which grade he should study in is a real headache. The more Father Mu thought about it, the tighter his brows furrowed. He brought up the school matter with me, and I just happened to take this opportunity to learn about the world. Mu Xuan, who was sitting to the side, rolled his eyes around and suggested with a smile, Dad, why don't we let Xiao Chen come to our class? That way, it'll be convenient for me to take care of him, and I can also help him out with his studies. I didn't even give him a single glance. Father Mu actually felt a bit tempted, but he was worried his son wouldn't be able to keep up with the schoolwork. If he can't keep up, his grades will be too poor. Mu Shen's grades have always been excellent. So comparing the two of them, plus the fact that the Mu family raised the wrong kid, is something that can't be hidden in their social circle. They hadn't even thought about covering it up anyway. When the time comes, everyone will know about it, and they will inevitably compare the two of them. What if that hurts his son's self-esteem? Mu Wanting spoke up calmly. You don't need to worry too much about this. If little brother can't keep up, we can just hire private tutors for one-on-one coaching. When we're free, we can also personally teach him. This semester is about to end anyway. Little brother can just enroll when the next semester starts. We can use this period to give him a good tutoring session, and I believe it shouldn't be a big problem. Peichiro's eyes instantly lit up, and she clapped her hands happily. Right. How come I didn't think of that yet? We can just hire private tutors, except for the fourth sister who isn't great at studying. The three of you have excellent grades. Tutoring Xiao Chen in senior year courses will definitely be no problem. Saying that, she instantly made the decision. Let's have Xiao Chen rest at home for a couple of days first, and then the three of you sisters can take turns, each tutoring one subject, to help Xiao Chen get familiar with the school curriculum as soon as possible. Mu Wanting nodded. Sure. Since the eldest sister nodded and agreed, the second and third sisters also nodded along. For a moment, Mu Yue didn't know whether to feel lucky or upset about being looked down upon. I originally intended to speak up and refuse, but seeing that the three sisters had agreed and Pei Shuero looked full of enthusiasm again, I silently swallowed my words of refusal back down. Mu Xian bit his lower lip and lowered his eyes, hiding the deep sense of grievance in his gaze. The fact that the Mu family raised the wrong child was already an open secret in their social circle. The parents never even thought about hiding it. The couple had even planned long ago to host a banquet once I got familiar with the environment, inviting the elites of the circle to attend, restoring my identity openly and honorably, so I wouldn't be mocked or wronged when going out in the future. Although I didn't quite like this kind of occasion, I also understood it was a mandatory process. Otherwise, the outside world would definitely make wild guesses, thinking that I, the real young master, am not welcome, or even suppressed by Mu Xuan, the fake young master. Once I adjusted slightly to the new environment, Pei Shuero couldn't wait to drag me to the big mall for a crazy shopping spree. Except for the eldest sister and father, who had to work, everyone else was dragged out to accompany me shopping. Yet they left Mu Xuan behind all by himself. Mu Yue sat in the passenger seat completely pouting, glaring at me through the rearview mirror from time to time. I didn't even bother to lift an eyelid. Anyone could figure out what she was mad about using their toes. It was Mu Xuan himself who didn't want to tag along. So is it expected of me to beg him? Arriving at the mall's parking lot, Mu Yue rushed off to park the car. Mu Rolan and Mu Yakin accompanied their mother, walking into the mall entrance together with me, beginning today's shopping spree. The Mu family sisters were in charge of carrying bags the whole time. Peishweru intimately linked her arm with mine. As we were walking, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. I tilted my head, listening carefully for a while. Mom, did you guys hear a strange sound? I think I heard a muffled thud just now, like the sound of something falling from a high place and crashing heavily onto the ground. And it's definitely not an ordinary object. That kind of sound is very distinct. Peishweru listened closely as well. No, I didn't. This is a massive mall, so it's incredibly lively. Even if some sound travels over, it's bound to be the noise of the crowd. As they were speaking, Mu Rolan noticed something wrong up ahead, and faint waves of screaming echoed over. Mom, it looks like something happened up front. My eyes flashed slightly. I grabbed Peishweru's wrist back. Mom, let's go check it out. Without waiting for the others to stop me, I had already dragged my mother and ran off quickly, squeezing toward the direction of the accident, leaving the sisters looking at each other in his wake. How can he be such a gossip? Mu Yue mumbled after parking the car and catching up. Mu Rolan gave her a cold glance. If you let Mom hear that, you're bound to get another lecture. Mu Yue rolled her eyes speechlessly. Let's quickly catch up and see too. In case there's real trouble, Mom and little brother might easily run into danger. Mu Yakin said calmly. She picked up her pace and followed. Mu Rolan also quickly followed over. Mu Yue walked unhurriedly at the very back. Peishweru was dragged into a jog all the way by her son and soon arrived out of the gathering crowd. Watching her son squeeze hard into the crowd, her mouth couldn't help but twitch a few times. I really couldn't tell. Zhao Chen usually looks so cold and detached, but turns out he's a kid who loves watching drama so much. Aw, looking at him now makes him seem even cuter, doesn't it? But when Peishweru clearly saw the scene ahead, her face instantly turned deathly pale. She let out a terrified gasp and instinctively blocked the view in front of me. Feeling that this still wasn't safe enough, she quickly turned around and covered my eyes, not letting me see this horrifying scene before us. A severe fatal accident had actually occurred in the mall. I honestly just wanted to check out the situation. So why did she cover my eyes? I am a person from the underworld. I can tell how a person died with just one glance. If they really died an unnatural death, then won't they have to go to my Wang Zicheng? Wouldn't that make them one of my underlings? Right now, Wang Zicheng is seriously about to be overcrowded. Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not scared. I gently pulled down Peishweru's hand and said with absolute composure. Peishweru gave me a resentful glare. How are you not a kid? You haven't even had your birthday yet. What a complete miscalculation. I, a grand 1,000-year-old ghost, have now become a kid. Mu Rolan caught up and blocked me from the front too. I helplessly massaged my forehead. The mall security came out to handle it immediately, while also calling the police right away and calling for an ambulance, beginning to disperse the thick crowd of onlookers. Peishweru wasn't about to let me indulge in gossip. She insisted on dragging me away quickly. Ultimately affected by this incident, Peishweru saw that they had bought enough things, so she thought about heading back home first and coming back to the mall another day when they had time. With such a fatal incident happening, it really felt a bit like bad luck. Mom, you guys go wait for me in the car first. I'll go get some fresh air in the corridor. Peishweru originally wanted to go with me, but I rejected her with absolute firmness. I'm not a 3-year-old toddler. Why do I need a parent escorting me just to get some fresh air? I followed the signs and walked to the long corridor. While I was standing by the window of the corridor, a young man walked over. Seeing me standing by the window, he caught a fright, then lowered his head and walked past in a rush. My gaze locked firmly onto his back. My nostrils flared slightly, and I took a gentle sniff of the air. I caught a whiff of the scent of death. I intentionally lingered by the window, and that man soon turned right back around. Seeing that I was still standing by the window, he froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting that I actually hadn't left yet. I unhurriedly waited for him to walk closer, taking another careful sniff of the air, confirming that I indeed smelled that distinct scent of death coming off his body. Although the scent was very faint, I couldn't help but give him a deep look. What are you looking at? Never seen a handsome guy before. The other guy noticed my gaze instantly, like his sore spot had been stepped on. He immediately snapped at me, and then quickly walked away with panicked steps. No matter how you looked at it, this back profile screamed guilt and panic. If a person didn't have long to live, their body would carry a thick aura of death. The man just now was clearly not in that state. Then there were only two possibilities left. Either he rubbed it off of someone else, or he killed someone with his own hands. The former had too many variables to draw a conclusion, while the latter scenario was way more simple and clear. I couldn't help but associate this with that young girl who had just fallen from upstairs in the mall. I calmly clapped my hands, turned around and left. Peishweru was waiting in the car anxious as hell. Having just experienced such a horrifying thing, she couldn't shake off a bad premonition in her heart, scared to death that her newly found son might meet with an accident. It wasn't until they safely returned home that the heart she had been hanging in suspense was completely put at ease. She quickly threw the mall incident to the back of her mind, busying herself with organizing the things they bought. As for me, the moment I got home, I flopped onto the sofa, turned on the TV, and kept watching with great relish, straight up turning into a hardcore TV addict. Mu Roland and Mu Yakin went back to their rooms to focus on schoolwork. Both sisters were straight A student types, and since they would be seniors next year, their academic life had also become incredibly busy. Mu Yue was the most idle one, sitting carelessly on the living room sofa and watching her mom busy upstairs. She just couldn't keep her mouth shut for a moment, and couldn't help but scoff mockingly, "What a country bumpkin. What's so good about watching TV? So unsophisticated." My eyes were glued tight to the TV screen. Hearing her words, I nodded my head and admitted it with absolute nonchalance. Yeah, I grew up in a deep mountain Taoist temple since I was a kid, so of course I'm unsophisticated. I am the Prince of Wangzicheng. Ever since my sister dumped all the affairs on me, I've been so busy that my feet barely touched the ground. I really had no time to pay attention to mortal trivialities, only knowing the general gist of things. But now that I've taken over Mu Chen's identity, I must seize the time to understand this world. I feel that watching TV is the fastest method. You can know all world affairs without leaving the house. How convenient and efficient. Mu Yue was completely choked by my response. You're absolutely doing this on purpose, right? Intentionally bringing this up to make us feel guilty, wanting us to feel sorry for you. So your status in this family will be secured. While Mu Yue was rattling on beside me, I spared her a contemptuous glance, looking at her like she was an idiot. Catching a glimpse of a figure coming down the stairs out of the corner of my eye, I snitched out loud without any psychological burden, "Mom, Mu Yue is insulting me again. She called me a country bumpkin and said I'm intentionally making you guys feel guilty, wanting you guys to feel sorry for me. She dislikes me so much. Is she trying to force me to leave this home?" Mu Yue's eyes instantly widened, almost spitting out a mouthful of old blood. Before she could make any response, her ear was forcefully twisted by someone. "Calm down, Mom, calm down a bit. Don't listen to his nonsense here. I absolutely didn't." Mu Yue grimaced in pain, not forgetting to loudly defend herself. I pointed my finger right at her face, pouting hard, with a hint of just the right amount of grievance on my face. She said it with her own mouth. She said I'm a country bumpkin, who hasn't even seen a TV set before. I already explained to her that I grew up in a deep mountain Taoist temple, so it's normal that I'm unsophisticated. And then he started picking on me. Mu Yue opened her mouth, wanting to talk back. But she did indeed say those words, even though she didn't mean it that way at all. "I see your skin is itching for a lesson. Get over here right now. Let's see how I deal with you today. Don't stay here affecting your brother watching TV." Pei Shuiru didn't show a single bit of mercy this time, forcefully twisting her ear and pulling her to the side, fully determined to properly teach this dead girl a lesson. She really didn't know what was wrong with this child. She clearly doted on Mu Xuan so much, pampering him like some rare precious treasure. Yet the moment Xiao Chun came back, she targeted him at every turn, even though Xiao Chun is her actual biological brother, a blood relative from the same mother, being so unable to see what's important. It seems she has been lectured way too little normally. I coldly stared at Mu Yue, who was crying out in pain, without a single shred of sympathy in my heart, even gifting her an extremely smug look, making Mu Yue so mad she almost ascended to heaven right then and there. I have now completely figured it out. Out of the 4 daughters of the Mu family, this Mu Yue is the one with the worst working brain, unbelievably dumb and beyond cure. My attention shifted back to the TV screen, staring intently at the news channel, as if anxiously waiting for something. As expected, the local TV station broadcasted the mall incident. At around 11 a.m. today, a falling incident occurred at the Four Seasons Mall in the city center. A young female suffered severe injuries from a sudden accident in the mall and unfortunately passed away after rescue efforts failed. The exact cause of the fall is still under police investigation. The person is really dead. I knit my brows slightly, unable to help but think back to that person I met in the corridor. He was also around the same age, with an extremely panicked and guilty look. The key point was that he carried the scent of death on him. Could that man have something to do with the victim? Did the girl who fell just lose her footing by accident? Or was it suicide? Or perhaps she was murdered by someone? I wished I could immediately head to the scene to investigate and check whether she died naturally or died a wrongful death. But I had just returned to the Mu family not long ago, and wasn't familiar with this city at all. Wanting to go out alone would be harder than climbing to heaven. Thinking up to this point, I had no choice but to temporarily drop the idea. After finishing the news broadcast, I hurriedly stood up and slowly walked over toward the other side, seemingly speaking up out of kindness to persuade Mom. Stop scolding her. Actually, what she said just now wasn't wrong either. Before I could even finish my words, Mu Yue roared back full of resentment. I don't need your fake kindness here. Now this completely stirred up a hornet's nest. Pei Shuiru, whose anger had originally almost cooled down, had her temper surge straight up instantly. Xiao Chun, you don't need to care about this dead girl. She has incredibly thick skin, so it'll be fine even if I break a feather duster on her. Mom is stewing some tonic for you in the kitchen. Go quickly check if it's ready yet. Peishoru shielded her son. I gave Mu Yue a highly sympathetic glance, turned around and lightly went to the kitchen to find food. Mu Yue felt that I was purely gloating, and glared fiercely at my back with death stares, only to be caught red-handed on the spot by Peishoru. Mu Yue. Today, she absolutely had to break that feather duster. I was still pondering over what kind of method to use to find that man I met in the corridor that day, but I didn't expect the opportunity would deliver itself right to my door. The Mu family was going to host a grand recognition banquet. Almost the entire upper class of Haishi and social celebrities had received invitations from the Mu family. On the day of the banquet, the Mu family villa was extraordinarily lively. Glasses clinked amid a sea of glamorous guests. Everywhere you looked, there were beautifully dressed socialites and successful men in suits and leather shoes, gathering in small groups of 2s and 3s to chat. I had been staying in my room upstairs the whole time. Peishiro couldn't free herself downstairs, planning to come up and get me down when it was time to officially and rightfully introduce me to everyone. I changed into my haute couture suit, and seeing that the time was about right, I walked out of the room. Passing by Mushuan's room, my footsteps paused slightly, and I tilted my ear a bit to listen. It's really not that I intended to eavesdrop on them. It's just that the people inside took advantage of the noisy crowd downstairs and spoke with a slightly louder voice. Plus, since I'm no ordinary mortal, I could easily distinguish the voices with just a bit of listening. The woman speaking with Mushuan was my nominal aunt. Because of this grand recognition banquet, the Mu family members from the capital had all come over, including my uncle's family who inherited the Mu family's company ancestral home and most of the assets, as well as that high and mighty old Madame Mu. However, I felt their sincerity was just so-so. The banquet was clearly being held today, yet they unhurriedly arrived just last night. Old Madame Mu moved into the Mu family villa, while the uncle's family went straight to stay at a hotel downtown. I rested my chin on one hand, thinking to myself, it seemed Mushuan had a pretty good relationship with the uncle's family. From beginning to end, this aunt of mine had only given me an extremely casual glance and casually brushed me off with a few polite formalities. As I was thinking, the sound of footsteps walking around came from inside. I quickly retreated back into my own room, waiting until the two of them left the room and went downstairs, before I reopened this door and walked out. Peishiro happened to come upstairs to look for me just then. Seeing me looking all dressed up, she instantly smiled, her eyes filled with affection and amazement. Xiao Chen looks so handsome tonight. These words weren't a lie at all. Peishiro felt that probably due to his cultivation, he had too little involvement with worldly distractions, which developed this clean and transparent aura. The more she looked, the more she liked him. And the more she looked, the more heartbroken she felt for him. She secretly vowed in her heart that she would do everything in her power to protect her son from now on, letting him keep his current state forever and making him worry-free for the rest of his life. The time is about right. Mom will take you downstairs. After taking 2 steps, I asked as if casually, don't we need to call Mushuan along? No need, tonight's banquet is held for you. He's currently together with his aunt anyway. It's fine if we call him along, he'll probably overthink things again. This child's mind has been incredibly sensitive lately. This also left them not knowing what was best to do. Aunt seems to dote on him very much. According to what I've learned during this period, the relationship between my cheap dad and his eldest brother seems to be very average. Otherwise, after dividing the family back then, he wouldn't have come straight to Haishi to start from scratch. Although they would go back to the capital for a reunion every year. That was purely out of respect for old Madame Mu. So why did the aunt favor Mushuan so much? Peishiro, however, didn't think it was strange at all, and patiently explained, you also know the situation in your dad's family. He has an older brother and an older sister. Your uncle and aunt don't have a son. And though your aunt gave birth to a son, he isn't named Mu after all. Only I gave birth to a precious son like you. Saying that, a flash of guilt appeared between Peishiro's brows. The person who was supposed to enjoy all this doting and pampering should have been her Xiao Chen. He was the young master that the Mu family held in the palm of their hands. But fate played tricks on them. Thinking of these past events, she felt a pang of sorrow again. I raised my eyebrows slightly. So it was actually for this reason. It had been over half a month since I returned to the Mu family, and tonight was my first official appearance. Peishiro and Father Mu accompanied me on my left and right. As I slowly walked down the stairs, my appearance and bearing instantly attracted everyone, firmly locking the gaze of all the guests present. There was completely no sign of being timid or shrinking back. The aura exuded from my every move was clearly that of a young master from an elite family, painstakingly raised with countless effort by a wealthy clan. Seeing me in the spotlight, Mushuan couldn't help but feel his heart tighten up. His eyes stared fixedly at my figure, unable to hide the deep sense of loss and jealousy in his heart. Mushuan, don't panic. He's just putting on an act right now. Who doesn't know how to fake it? You're the young master raised by the Mu family. You must never forget that. You've lived in the Mu family for over a decade. Even if he's the biological one, so what? Feelings take time to develop after all. Lu Monkey noticed Mu Xuan's emotional fluctuation, patted the back of his hand reassuringly, and comforted him in a soft and gentle voice. Mu Xuan forced out a bitter smile. I'm fine. I'm actually quite happy for them. Mom and Dad found their biological son, which is a huge blessing. I have enjoyed life in the Mu family for so many years. Ultimately, I'm the one who should feel sorry to Xiao Chen. Lu Monkey gave him an annoyed glare and chided him in a low voice. What does that have to do with you? Weren't you just a baby back then too? It was their fault as parents for not keeping proper watch, which led to this identity swap blunder. No matter who's to blame, it can't be blamed on your head. Alright, put your heart back in your chest and stop overthinking. I know your parents' character very well. They painstakingly raised you for so many years. Even if their biological son is back now, they will absolutely never stop doting on you. You need to straighten out your own mindset and don't lower your own status. In short, you just remember this for me. You didn't do anything wrong, and you don't owe anyone anything. Did you hear me clearly? Mu Zhen bit his lip and nodded gently, saying no more annoying words. Mom and Dad indeed wouldn't stop doting on him, but it could absolutely never compare to before. In the past at home, and even in the entire Mu clan, whether in Haishi or over in the capital, he was the Mu family's one and only golden grandson. The whole family held him in the palm of their hands, always granting his every request, and everyone's eyes and hearts were fully on him. But what about now? He clearly felt a massive gap. Ever since Mu Chen came back, Mom and Dad had no eyes for him anymore. Their hearts and eyes were only filled with Mu Chen, and even his several sisters were the same. Only the fourth sister was still wholeheartedly protecting him. Thinking about it, Mu Xuan felt incredibly wronged. Things that originally belonged entirely to him now had to be cut in half and given away by force. Who could ever stomach this kind of gap? While his mind was wandering, Father Mu and Pei Shuiru had already in an extremely grand manner introduced me to the guests once, showing zero hesitation in flaunting their care and affection for me. Even the four Mu sisters stood beside the parents. This scene falling into everyone's eyes naturally carried a completely different flavor. Mu Xuan, these Mu family people are way too much right. The whole family is up there acting all loving. So why on earth did they leave you out? Lu Monkey had gone off to socialize, so the wealthy young masters who usually got along well with Mu Xuan gathered around him full of indignation. Don't talk nonsense. Tonight is originally Xiao Chen's home turf. This banquet was specially held for him. He is the well-deserved main character. What would it look like if I barged up there? It wasn't that Father Mu and Pei Shuiru intentionally left him out. Before this, Pei Shuiru had also suggested having Mu Xuan go up on stage together when the time came. But Mu Xuan had rejected it with absolute firmness. He insisted that Mu Chen was a real young master. And since this banquet was specifically held for Mu Chen, then he indeed shouldn't be standing up there. The words were spoken very reasonably. So Pei Shuiru thought about it and felt that him standing on the side might not be a good thing for him either, because doing so would inevitably invite comparisons, which would instead make his situation even more awkward, so the matter was dropped. But although he dropped it, Mu Xuan felt wronged deep down in his heart again. Right now, although he said it like this, his tone couldn't hide his sense of loss, which made his friends call out the injustice on his behalf even more. Mu Xuan granted that Mu Chen is the real young master, but you've also stayed in the Mu family for over a decade. There's no reason for them to push you out the moment he comes back, right? It makes no difference for a rich family to raise one more son. According to the first come first served rule, he's the outsider and the latecomer here. How can you use first come first served to talk about this? He's Mom and Dad's biological son. He suffered so much in that deep mountain Taoist temple, while I enjoyed all the blessings in the Mu family. It's only normal for him to feel angry in his heart. I can understand all of this about him, and I will absolutely never hold a grudge against him. Mu Xuan put on a generous front, while the friend beside him curled his lip in disdain, making no effort to hide the contempt and scorn in his eyes. A wild kid who grew up in a deep mountain Taoist temple. He probably hasn't even seen what a TV looks like. It's hard to imagine such a country bumpkin still exists. Between you and this country bumpkin radiating a rustic aura, anyone with a brain would know who to favor. You are a noble young master, meticulously built, and nurtured by the Mu family's wealth. How can that country bumpkin ever compare to you? If Uncle Mu and Aunt Pei can't see what's important, they will sooner or later regret it one day. Just wait for this country bumpkin to embarrass the Mu family and make them the laughingstock of high society. Mu Xuan, your personality can't be too weak either. The more you back down like this, the easier it is for people to bully you. You have to fight for what should be yours. Mu Xuan nodded repeatedly. I know all of this. You guys rest assured. No one is bullying me at home. Fourth sister is still as good to me as before. Words that seemed comforting were actually instigating. By only saying Mu Yue was the same to him as before, wasn't that a roundabout way of saying the other three sisters were already not as caring toward him as before? Did they abandon the adopted brother just because they got their biological brother back? Mu Xuan quit while he was ahead and didn't continue speaking. It wasn't that he really wanted to do anything bad. It was just that seeing Mu Chen steal the spotlight just now, he suddenly worried he would blend into the circle too quickly, and then rob him of all his light. So he thought about dropping some hints to his friends first. Word of mouth spreads fast. Even if it couldn't really stop anything from happening, at least it could play a little role, right? As they were talking, the group saw tonight's absolute main character, which was me walking straight toward them. Their expressions changed slightly, but they quickly forced themselves to stay calm, comforting themselves that I didn't hear what was said just now. What was there to fear? Why feel guilty? Mushan was actually a bit guilty in his heart too, so he didn't notice that after one of the close friends beside him saw me, his face turned completely pale. Then he quickly lowered his eyes, his hands unconsciously twisting tightly together, and soon let go like receiving an electric shock, pretending to be natural and calm. You look really handsome tonight. Mushan praised me with a soft smile. I nodded slightly. Isn't it a given that I'm handsome? Speaking of which, it really was a strange kind of fate. His own looks really were somewhat similar to mine. When I saw Mu Chen's soul in Wang Jicheng, even I couldn't help but be startled for a moment. I didn't expect this newly arrived unlucky ghost to actually look a bit like me. Later, I thought about it carefully. This was probably a fate destined by heaven. I accepted the praise with an extremely natural posture, my gaze landing on the man beside Mu Xuan. Mu Xuan felt a bit constrained. After looking at his close friend, he introduced, this is my good friend Jiang Yan. He is the young master of the Jiang family. Mu Xuan and Chang Yan had known each other the longest. The two became inseparable friends back in elementary school, and had accompanied each other all the way until now. So it's young master Jiang? I intentionally dragged out my tone, with a hint of deep meaning in my voice. Mu Xuan looked at the two of them with a strange expression, and asked in confusion, Xiao Chen, do you happen to know Jiang Yan? Before I could even open my mouth to reply, Jiang Yan eagerly spoke up to deny it. No, we don't know each other at all, but he acted way too anxious, which instead made him look extremely unusual and suspicious. The smile on my face became even more meaningful. We indeed don't know each other. It's just that we crossed paths in the mall corridor a few days ago. Back then I intentionally dragged out my words, and before I could even finish speaking, Jiang Yan hurriedly interrupted me. I suddenly remembered I have urgent matters to handle. I'll take my leave first. I'll catch up with you guys another day. After saying that, without waiting for Mu Xuan's response, he turned and fled. No matter how you looked at that back profile, it looked like a panicked escape. I originally intended to come over and test him out, but I didn't expect this Jiang Yan's mental fortitude to be so weak. Doesn't this basically tell me out loud that there is absolutely something wrong with him? If there was no problem, what on earth was he panicking about here? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but lock my gaze onto Mu Xuan. Mu Xuan stiffened all over from my stare, feeling a burst of inexplicable nervousness and anxiety. Stammering, he asked, what's wrong? This friend of yours. I spoke at a slow and sluggish pace, as if intentionally keeping Mu Xuan in suspense. Xiao Chen, if Jiang Yan happened to offend you before, please don't hold a grudge against him. He definitely didn't mean to offend you. He's actually a pretty good guy. I smiled carelessly. It's nothing. Since he's your close friend, then invite him over to the house as a guest another day. Mu Xuan was visibly stunned for a moment, opening his mouth wanting to say something, but I didn't give him the chance to speak at all. Let's set it for the day after tomorrow. You invite him to the house as a guest, and I'll have the kitchen prepare in advance to make some high-end desserts to entertain him. The day after tomorrow, the people from the uncle's side will also return to the capital. My tone wasn't negotiating with him, but rather issuing a cold, hard notification. After I finished speaking, I turned around and walked away, giving Mu Xuan zero opportunity to decline, leaving Mu Xuan and his friend looking at each other, their heads completely filled with question marks. There was a reason why I targeted Jiang Yan. Aside from smelling the scent of death on him that day, there were also relevant reports in the news later, saying that the girl who fell from the mall that day died from an accidental fall. If it really were just an accidental fall, it would be nothing. But the problem was that I truly sensed a powerful grudge. That was a grudge coming from that fallen girl. Even though I am currently in the mortal realm, whenever a new member is added to the city of the wrong dead, I naturally still sense it. When Yimo got dragged into a dispute, and ultimately ended up accidentally falling to her death. Yet the truth was covered up by them. In this world, there are so many people dying normal and abnormal deaths every single day. It's not that I can sense every single person who dies a wrongful death. This also requires triggering some kind of fated connection. I guess it's probably because that day at the mall, I just happened to be at the crime scene and had close contact with the deceased up close. That's why I keenly sensed her grudge. The city of the wrong dead is the resting place for those who pass away from accidents. Those who pass away normally will go through normal procedures, and the underworld will judge where they should go next, based on their mortal life. Most people get reincarnated. A minority ascend to heaven due to their karma and merits, and another portion are sent to the city of the wrong Dao, until their original natural lifespan ends. If they were innocently implicated by others, they also have to wait until the truth comes to light. Only when the grudge fully disperses can they continue their reincarnation. But right now, the city of the wrong dead is overcrowded, and the souls that should have been reincarnated can't leave, forced to just linger there. Day after day, year after year, there are still many people coming to the city of the wrong dead, but fewer and fewer are leaving. If this keeps up, the city of the wrong dead will cease to exist, and thousands of souls will also dissipate along with it. As for the root cause, the rebirth gate has somehow been shut and can't be opened, so the ghost naturally cannot leave. My big sister and I pondered over this problem for a long time, trying many ways but failing to solve it. Later, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gave us a hint, and only then did my big sister and I suddenly understand. That's how the story of me coming to the mortal realm happened. My purpose for coming here is to gather merits and faith to restart the rebirth gate and get the city of the wrong dead back up and running. Now that an opportunity has delivered itself to my door, I can't exactly push it away right. Mushin thought about it left and right but couldn't figure out what on earth I wanted to do. After the banquet, he told Peishwaru about this matter. He originally thought that given how much Peishwaru cares about me now, she might refuse. He didn't expect her to happily agree to it. With Peishwaru around, he had no way to go out. When he ran into Mu Yue, his eyes flashed, greeting her like normal, but putting on an intent to speak yet stopping himself look. Anyone with eyes could see he had something to say, let alone Mu Yue, who cared about him. Originally, Mu Yue wanted to avoid him, because she felt a bit guilty. Regarding tonight's matter, she felt Mushuan had been wronged, but there was nothing she could do about it. Mushan grew up with her, and had been doted on by the sisters for over a decade. But Xiaochen was also her biological younger brother. Both were her own flesh and blood. If she had to wrong Xiaochen just to make sure Mushuan didn't feel wronged, that would absolutely not do. If she dared to do that, Mom and Dad would definitely kick her out of the house. So for a moment she didn't know how to face him, and thought it would be better to avoid Mushuan. But seeing him look so troubled, wanting to say something yet appearing hesitant out of fear, she still felt bad for him. Mu Xuan, do you have something you want to tell fourth sister? Mu Xuan bit his lip and hesitated for a moment. Fourth sister Xiaochen, I don't know if Zhang Yun offended Xiaochen and made him unhappy. If that's really the case, then I'm willing to apologize on Zhang Yan's behalf. But Xiaochen, he asked me to invite Zhang Yan over to the house. Fourth sister, do you think Xiaochen wants to look for trouble? Mu Yue's brows furrowed tightly, obviously finding my behavior strange as well. After thinking about it, she said, it's fine. I'm free anyway, so I'll stay at home when the time comes. I won't let him mess around. Lushan fell silent for a moment. Can we just forget about it? Xiaochen is also my brother, and Zhang Yan is my close friend. I don't want any conflict to happen between them. Mu Yue scratched her head. Mu Xuan, you also know what the situation at home is like right now? Since he wants to invite your friend over as a guest, Mom and Dad will definitely agree to it. Not only will they agree, they'll also be very happy, so there's absolutely no reason to refuse. If she were to speak up and say no, she would guaranteed get laughed at by her mom again. Seeing Mu Xuan looking completely disappointed, Mu Yue patted her chest and promised, don't worry. I'll keep an eye on him when the time comes. And I absolutely won't let him bully Zhang Yan. Since things had been spelled out to this extent, Mushan had no other options left. The reason why he wanted to stop it, aside from everything else, was because of an inexplicable unease in his heart. He still trusted his intuition quite a bit, but since he couldn't stop it, he could only think of other ways. Overall, this recognition banquet tonight was considered a massive success. Although old Madame Mu behaved not all that passionately, or happily she wasn't so senile as to do anything inappropriate on this kind of occasion. The entire night went smoothly without a hitch, and all the guests had a blast. Ever since I returned to the Mu family, I had always been free. No matter which way you looked at it, Peishueru and Father Mu never demanded that I must do things a certain way. They only told me to just do whatever made me comfortable at home. I was sleeping in until I woke up naturally every single day. Anyway, waking up early meant having nothing to do. Plus, I was staying up late surfing the web every night to familiarize myself and understand this world, so sleeping in late was perfectly justifiable. No one in the Mu family would ever criticize me. But I forgot that there were a few extra people around now, and they didn't seem to like me very much. The moment I went downstairs this morning, I got called out. The elders are all up already, yet you have the nerve to sleep until now. Seeing me coming downstairs, old Madame Mu rolled her eyes and shot me a sidelong glance, speaking with great dissatisfaction, look at our Mu Xuan. He got up early to help prepare breakfast. You should learn from Mu Xuan on this point. At the very least, you should show some filial piety to your elders. Hearing this, Peishuero became unhappy. Mom, there's nothing at home that needs help. The kids can sleep for as long as they want. Besides, it's not even late right now. The fourth girl hasn't even woken up yet. Furthermore, whether someone is filial or not isn't judged by how early they wake up. Peishiru subconsciously defended her son, but she didn't realize that by defending him like this, the words she spoke would hurt Mushuan's feelings. Wasn't this implying that he intentionally woke up early to make breakfast, just to suck up to everyone? I remained unfazed, leisurely taking my seat. Shishiren sat down. Looking at Mushuan, I said with a look of sudden realization. I've been back for so long, yet I don't think I've ever eaten a breakfast you prepared. Did you make too little? So everyone finished it and left none for me. I see you waking up later than me every day. So it turns out you actually get up first to make breakfast, and then go back to sleep. Mushuan's face flushed red with embarrassment. Ever since I came back, he felt uncomfortable deep down, and out of awkwardness, he tried his best to avoid me. So he actually woke up very late. Plus, since it was the holidays now, throughout the day, except for coming downstairs for the 3 meals, he spent basically the rest of his time staying in his room. As for breakfast, there were servants at home, and since he was a young master of the Mu family, how could he possibly cook often? Seeing how grandma praises you so much, the breakfast you make must be delicious. Tomorrow, I'd like to try it, I said with a smile. I wasn't forcing Mushuan to make breakfast, but the meaning behind the words was loud and clear. Old Madame Mu grew even more displeased. There are servants at home. So why do you care what Mushuan does? I looked at her with a puzzled expression. How is this bossing him around? He keeps claiming that he is. My older brother. What's wrong with an older brother making breakfast for his younger brother? Besides, I'm doing this because I want to show some filial piety to grandma. Except for Peixuero, everyone at the dining table had a face that said they knew I was totally BSing. My expression, however, was dead serious. Cooking skills are honed through practice. Without practice, how can one get good at cooking? If he prepares breakfast for grandma, and something goes wrong because his cooking skills aren't good, what's that then? Grandma is at such an advanced age. Her body can't handle any mishaps. Saying that, I let out another sigh, putting on a completely selfless front. I'm different. I'm young, and I've suffered so much in the past, so I'm used to it. It's perfect for him to practice his skills on me, and use me as a guinea pig. This time, even Peixuero's fangirl filter shattered. Such completely shameless words. How could Xiao Chen say them with a straight face? Mushan was almost driven to tears by my roasting. Lu Monkey furrowed her brows tightly. You child, your personality is way too stubborn. Your grandma merely said one thing to you, and you talked back with 10 sentences. Aren't you afraid of making your grandma sick with anger? Besides, Mushuan's good intentions got totally twisted by you. She looked at me with a face full of disapproval. I know you have resentment in your heart, feeling that Mushuan enjoyed a blessed life for so many years, and took what belonged to you. But Mushuan was just a baby back then. What could he have known? He is just as innocent as you are. Why do you have to target him like this? Mushuan has a gentle personality. If he says he treats you as a brother, then he definitely treats you as a brother. Isn't it good to just have one more brother to dote on you? Why do this? She shook her head, looking completely disappointed. Peixuero was incredibly furious inside, forcing herself not to throw a tantrum, but her expression had obviously turned ugly. Sister-in-law, you've misunderstood. Xiao Chen isn't targeting anyone. He's just way too blunt. He doesn't know how to sugarcoat his words. But he actually means no harm in his heart. Yeah, how could I have any malicious intent? I'm not targeting him either. My attitude toward him is better than toward fourth sister. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. It's exactly because I know he's innocent too, that I didn't let mom and dad kick him out. Letting him stay in the Mu family to keep living as a young master. Isn't that enough? I'm literally crying for my own kindness here. I've never seen anyone as tolerant as me. The expression on my face was pure and innocent. I've already gone this far, yet aunt still thinks I'm bullying him. Could it be you want me to give up my identity to him too, and give up my biological parents to him as well? I intentionally emphasized the words biological parents. Lu Monkey was completely choked up by this. What else could she possibly say? It was probably because my expression was way too serious, to the point that Lu Monkey couldn't even tell if I said those words on purpose or by accident. Old Madame Mu was likewise heavily choked up, reflexively wanting to suppress me using her status as an elder. But I didn't give her the chance to open her mouth. You're also worried that I might bully Mushuan. I heard from mom and dad that everyone dotes on him a lot. How about this then? In the future, let him live together with grandma. Anyway, he's not a kid anymore, and doesn't need someone to look after him 24/7. Living with grandma, he can show her more filial piety, and make breakfast for grandma every single day. I tilted my head acting cute. This way, he can be filial to grandma, and you won't have to worry about him being bullied by me either. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The entire dining table fell dead silent. Old Madame Mu and Lu Monkey glared at me, while Peixuero didn't know what face she should pull. As for Mushuan, he was naturally terrified. Xiao Chen stopped talking. Grandma and aunt didn't mean it that way. They were just too worried about me. But I haven't been wronged at all. Mom, dad, and the sisters are just as good to me as before. And of course, you didn't bully me either. Don't take grandma and aunt's words to heart. If he were to move out to live with grandma, what would his status even be? Wouldn't it be even more awkward? He was a son of the Mu family, and would be for life. He looked at the 2 elders with pleading eyes. The 2 of them really did dote on him, so they forced themselves to swallow this grudge for his sake. The atmosphere at the dining table finally returned to normal, except everyone found their food rather tasteless. Of course, this everyone didn't include me. I ate with great relish, even eating one more bowl than usual. The thickly brewed millet porridge paired with side dishes was truly refreshing and appetizing. Seeing me like this, those two elders only felt a ball of fire burning in their chests. On the third day, as soon as the first branch and old Madame Mu left, I urged Mu Xuan to invite Jiang Yan over as a guest. Jiang Yan originally wanted to refuse, but thinking about the mall corridor incident, he steeled his resolve and came to the Mu family home as agreed. Pei Shuiru was very welcoming and had Mu Xuan accompany him, while I was fashionably late. The moment he saw me, the guilty Jiang Yan instantly became tense. He was still thinking about how to bypass the Mu family to have a proper chat with me, but I didn't play by the rules at all. I tilted my chin toward Mu Yue and Mu Xuan. You guys leave us for a bit. I have something to discuss with this Mr. Jiang. Mu Xian's expression changed. Jiang Yan was his close friend. Yet I was telling his friend to leave right now. Mu Chen, what do you want to do? If Jiang Yan has offended you in any way, just make things clear. You can't just invite someone over and then bully them. I shot Mu Yue a look of pure disdain. If you've got nothing to do, use your brain more. That thing grew there not to be a decoration, and definitely not just to make you look a bit taller. Out of the 4 Mu family sisters, the other 3 seem pretty smart and have good judgment. How did this one end up being so uniquely built? Mu Yue was absolutely fuming. She opened her mouth wanting to say something else, but I raised my voice and called out, "Mom." Mu Yue shuddered, reflexively shutting her mouth tight. Hearing the shout, Pei Shuiru quickly walked out. "Xiao Chen, what's wrong?" "Mom, I want to take Mu Xuan's friend to the garden." "Is that okay?" Pei Shuiru didn't find it strange at all. Instead, she smiled and said, "Go ahead. The sun is quite bright right now, so don't get sunburnt." Mu Xuan quickly followed up and said, "I'll go along too." He really couldn't set his mind at ease, always feeling that I had an ulterior motive for inviting Jiang Yan over, but I wasn't about to give him any face, declining directly. "No need, we'll be right back. You should stay behind to accompany her." I glanced at Mu Yue and said sarcastically, "She specifically stayed home to accompany you, just to prevent others from bullying you." After saying that, I turned and walked away, not worried at all that Jiang Yan wouldn't follow me. Mu Yue's face was full of embarrassment. In her heart, she felt more and more that this biological brother was highly calculating. Just look at what he said just now. Wasn't that just bad-mouthing her to Mom, subtly hinting that she stayed home because she suspected he would bully Mu Xuan? So that's why she stayed behind. What a scheming guy. "What do you want from me?" Jiang Yan looked at me with a guarded expression. After asking without waiting for me to answer, he quickly added, "I don't know what you're trying to do. I didn't offend you in the corridor that day either. Could it be just because I glared at you once?" I cut him off. "What's your relationship with the person who fell from the building? Did you guys have contact before the accident or..." I slowly turned around and tilted my head, my clean eyes seeming capable of seeing through everything. "Does this matter actually have to do with you guys?" "I didn't." Jiang Yan's face changed drastically as he denied it in a high-pitched voice, yet a hint of fear and panic uncontrollably leaked out from the depths of his eyes. "Whether it's nonsense or not, you know better than anyone. That was a covered-up accident. She was dragged into this and lost her life. What do you think would happen if I went to report this case?" Jiang Yan's words had already leaked crucial information. I spread my hands. Why would I need any evidence? As long as I just say the word, naturally someone will go looking for evidence. I wonder if such a rumor gets out about Mr. Jiang, whether your family's business will be affected. Are you threatening me? Don't think I'm afraid of you just because you're a young master. Compared to Mu Xuan, what do you even amount to? Do you think you can replace Mu Xuan? Keep dreaming. Mu Xuan has lived in the Mu family for over a decade. You can't match his bond with the family. I looked at him weirdly. Why on earth would I compare myself to Mu Xuan? He is an adopted son, while I am the biological son. A biological child trying to replace an adopted child? I'm not insane. Also, let me correct you. On one thing, I am not threatening you. I am reminding you. If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it in the first place. That was a living, breathing human life. Did you think everything would be fine just because the case was closed? I spoke with deep meaning, and after finishing, I turned around and left. Wanting to question him clearly was only to save time. Even if I didn't say anything, once that girl's grudge grows large enough, my identity would naturally make her come find me. Jiang Yan didn't take my words to heart at all. Mu Xian wanted to ask what exactly I said that made Jiang Yan leave so furiously, and whether I really bullied him, but looking at my expression, he felt that if he asked, I would definitely roast him so hard he'd want to find a hole to crawl into. I was still pondering how long it would take for the matter to blow up, but I didn't expect the speed to be surprisingly fast. Seeing the storm blowing up on the internet, I then felt it was only natural. I've learned a lot from watching TV every day. Everything is fast in this society. As long as a matter spreads to the internet, it's more useful than any kind of promotion. I felt that this was indeed the fastest way, probably because she encountered it at the mall. Pei Shuiru also sighed while watching the news. I originally thought it was a pure accident, but I didn't expect such a thing to blow up. If it's really like what her parents said, then it's truly way too tragic. That girl who fell from the building was only 25, so young. I heard she was an only child too. Just like that, she's gone. No wonder the parents can't accept it and insist on blowing the matter up. If it were her own son dying mysteriously, she would definitely go crazy too. Thinking of this, Pei Shueru quickly knocked on wood in her heart. She had just found Xiao Chun, and the days ahead were still long. The mother and son still had plenty of time to spend together. The deceased's parents revealed to the media that their daughter had a well-behaved and quiet personality, didn't have many friends, came from an ordinary family background, and didn't usually spend a lot on luxury. Unlike others of her age who loved shopping sprees, she rarely purchased personal items and handed over all the money from work to them for household expenses, leaving nothing for herself to spend. Usually she just went straight between work and home. Yet the place she fell from was a high-end mall, somewhere she couldn't afford to shop at all. She was a bit unusual before leaving the house that day, but they didn't think too much of it at the time, never expecting it to end like this. In the end, they initially thought it was an accident, but found a secret while packing her belongings. Their daughter had experienced unfair treatment before, so they suspected the cause of death wasn't an accident. They wanted the truth and justice. Musuen's eyes darted around, dodging, not daring to look directly at the parents on the TV. His hands on his knees clasped and rubbed against each other, his face turning an unnatural shade of pale. I noticed his face change color upon seeing the news, his expression looking highly bizarre. Thinking about his relationship with Zhang Yan, my heart stirred. Out of nowhere, I spoke up. What are you acting so flustered for? Do you know the deceased? Or have you done something shady that can't see the light of day? Musuen seemed to be startled, abruptly looking up to glare at me, retorting in a sharp voice, Xiao Chun, what nonsense are you spouting? Even if you're deeply dissatisfied with me, you can't just throw accusations around like this. Peishiru was stunned at first, then startled by the sharp voice. Mu Xuan, do you know this poor girl? Could she be a relative of your classmate? This wasn't entirely impossible. Mu Xuan attended a private high school with expensive tuition, and the school recruited top students every year. This type usually came from ordinary backgrounds, unable to afford tuition but possessing excellent grades. Maybe she was the relative of some classmate. Mu Xuan's face changed slightly again. If you have a clear conscience, what is there that you can't say? You and that Mr. Zhang are both very weird. You dodge and look guilty the moment this matter is mentioned. It's almost as if this is related to us is written on your faces. You've seen the news too. The matter has already blown up. It'll be very easy to find out once it's investigated, so it's better to come clean early and think of a solution. Peishiro originally didn't believe it, but looking at her adopted son's expression, her heart instantly skipped a beat. Mu Xuan, Mom, I really didn't do anything. Mu Xuan panicked. If Xiao Chen doesn't know what kind of person I am, don't tell me you don't know either, Mom. I'm the son you raised for over a decade. Seeing him put on that wrong look again, I almost wanted to roll my eyes. Stop acting. Your guilt is practically written all over your face. Even if you didn't do it, you're definitely involved. I'd like to see how long they can hold out. I stood up and went upstairs. Mushin's face flushed red and turned pale by turns. Furious to the extreme, he let tears stream directly down his face. Mom, you saw it too. Ever since Xiao Chen came back, I've backed down at every turn. I know I have no right to compete with him, and I shouldn't compete with him. I also wanted to get along well with him and be filial to you and Dad together. But he finds me an eyesore at every turn. No matter what I do, he always has something to say. Zhang Yan left in a fury today, and I don't even know what he actually did. Mom, tell me what exactly do I need to do? Otherwise, I should just move out. Although I'm not an adult yet, I think I can support myself. You guys have raised me for so many years. That is already an immense favor. I can't ask for anything more. He seemed to want to vent all the terror, worry, grievances, and dissatisfaction in his heart, covering his face and crying bitterly. Peisueru felt an ache in her heart watching this. Both were her own flesh and blood. Xiao Chen was her biological son, so of course she doted on him. But Musuan had been raised by her side for over a decade. He wasn't biological, but was just like a biological son. She wasn't so foolish as to expect the two of them to truly love each other like real brothers. As long as they coexisted peacefully, that would be enough. Besides, Xiao Chen also said he didn't mind letting Musuan stay. It's just that Xiao Chen's tongue was indeed way too blunt, not knowing how to be a bit tactful. At home, family members could tolerate it. But what will you do out in the real world? As she thought about it, her mind drifted completely off track. Musuan whooped and complained but didn't hear any comfort for a long time. He choked back a sob and suddenly glanced up, feeling even more wronged and angry. Mom was actually spacing out at a time like this. This time he was truly heartbroken. The moment I returned to my room, I noticed something off. With a wave of my small hand, I set up a barrier. Come on out. After quite a while, a blurry figure shivered and floated out. As soon as my gaze swept over, the figure instantly shrank into the corner. You're already a ghost, yet you're still this cowardly. No wonder you were bullied by those trust fund brats. I deeply suspected that someone this timid didn't get any better even after becoming a ghost. What could she possibly do? Can she really trigger a fated opportunity? I expressed my deep doubts. How did you find your way here? If you don't talk, I'm throwing you out. The figure got startled and quickly said, I'm Wen Yimo. The other day, something happened to me at the mall. Speaking up to this point, her voice grew low. It took her several days just to accept this reality. Unbelievable, yet she had no choice but to accept it. When she was falling down that day, she already guessed she wouldn't survive. Even if she didn't die, she'd probably be heavily injured, and her family couldn't afford the medical bills. In that case, it was better to just go. For a moment, she didn't know whether to feel lucky or not. So what do you want to do? Get revenge. When Yimo was stunned for a moment. Revenge? Can I actually get revenge? If not for revenge, why did you come looking for me? If you didn't want revenge, you wouldn't be lingering in the human world. I just can't let go of my parents. I'm sure you've seen your parents on TV too. You were their only daughter. And now that you're just gone like this, they won't let it slide easily. They look ready to fight to the bitter end. When Yimo fell silent for a long time, before muttering, they are no match for those people. Listening closely, her voice was even trembling a bit. I seem to understand a little now. It wasn't that she didn't hate them or didn't want revenge, but rather she had been bullied for so long that the trauma was branded onto her soul. Even though she became a ghost, she was still afraid of people. This reflected from another angle that she had deeply experienced the oppression brought by power. Can you help me? I know you're different. You can definitely help me, right? She suddenly raised her head and looked at me pleadingly. She didn't know who the boy in front of her was, or why he could see her. Since he could see her and wasn't panicked at all, then he must be someone special. She felt a mysterious guidance in the dark. So he could definitely help, right? I smiled slightly. How do you want me to help? This question completely stumped her. How exactly should he help? She didn't even have a plan herself, so how could she beg someone else? Did she not hate them herself? Of course she hated them. Her fall from the building was no accident at all. It was a covered-up altercation. When the accident happened, besides terror and despair, there was also deep resentment. Why did they have to treat her like this? She simply couldn't stand the trust fund brats bullying people, so she stood up to stop and scold them. Why did she end up with such a tragic fate? She used to work at a milk tea shop, where several trust fund brats often came to have drinks. Later on, they started causing a scene in the shop. She tried to stop them, but was insulted and threatened instead. Really furious, she intentionally said she'd record them and expose them online if they kept it up. Only then did those guys stop bullying people out of fear. She thought it was just a minor episode in life, never expecting she had provoked demons. From then on, the retaliation began. They deliberately isolated and sidelined her at school, teaming up with others to spread rumors and slander to humiliate her. She wanted to resign, but they threatened the boss found her address and alarmed her parents. Stuffing her desk full of trash and deliberately destroying her review materials happened constantly. She thought everything would be fine if she just endured until they got bored, never expecting it would end up costing her life. Afterward, it was swept under the rug as a mere accidental fall. The truth was buried and ignored. Recalling all this, her grudge surged violently. The air in the room fluctuated wildly. The curtains shifted, and the tassels of the lampshade swayed clattering. I want them to get a taste of this. I want them to get the retribution they deserve. I rested my chin on my hand. The retribution they deserve. Sending them to prison? That wouldn't be too hard. When Yimo's inner resentment was triggered, wiping away her timidity and turning her chillingly cold, her face twisting slightly. Prison. Their families won't let them go to prison. Even if they do, it won't be for very long. A few years of jail time in exchange for my life? Is my life really that cheap? She was unwilling to accept it. A life for a life. Then how does that sound? I spoke nonchalantly, as if it were the simplest matter ever, making Wen Yimo freeze for a moment as her boiling resentment paused. If things can go that way, it would obviously be for the best. But can you actually pull it off? She asked cautiously. If things can go that way, it would obviously be for the best. Why should others live their lives as if nothing happened when she's gone? Does dying mean dying for nothing? Legal justice might not necessarily offset anything. I smiled slightly. Of course I can. Pleasant surprise burst forth from Wen Yimo's eyes. Can you really help me get revenge? If I help you get revenge, can you leave in peace? She nodded, but then paused, her face full of loneliness and sorrow. I can let go of my resentment, but I can't let go of my parents. They only have me as their child. I thought about it and said, your parents aren't that old yet. Maybe they can have another one. She never expected to hear such words, and remembering her parents' age, it was indeed possible for them to have another child. If that's the case, then I can rest assured. Then when will you help me get revenge? What price do I need to pay? My eyes flickered with a hint of intent, and I said with a meaningful smile, don't worry. I certainly won't help you for nothing, but I won't ask for something you can't afford. Let's talk about the payment after everything is over. I'm no ordinary person. So what I want naturally won't be anything ordinary. One emo nodded without any hesitation. Then you just wait a bit. This requires the right opportunity. She nodded, then suddenly remembered something and asked nervously, "Can you help me protect my parents? I'm an official of the underworld, not some deity from the heavens. I manage the affairs of the dead, not the living." Seeing me stay silent without speaking, her eyes turned red. "If it's not possible, then never mind." Seeing her pitiful look, I said, "Don't worry. Your parents should be fine. The matter has blown up quite big right now. If anything happens to them at this time, it'll get out of hand." "Mom, I'm going out for a bit," I said to Peishueru. Peishueru was stunned for a moment. "Going out? Where are you going? I'll have the driver take you." "No need, I'll take a cab myself." It's not convenient to get things done with a driver tagging along. But Xiaochen hadn't gone out alone since coming back, and he wasn't familiar with Haishi either. What if he goes out by himself and gets lost? I saw through her worries. "Mom, it's fine, I know the way. Besides, I can just state the address directly when taking a cab. There's nothing to be afraid of." "That still won't do. There are a lot of bad people out there right now. How about this, I'll have your fourth sister go out with you. Whatever errands you need to run, just go ahead and run them. You can even have your fourth sister run errands for you." She quickly had someone wake up Mu Yue, who was sleeping in. Hearing her mother's words, Mu Yue threw a fit. "Mom, I'm his older sister, not his little sidekick. If you're not worried about him, just let the driver follow him. Why do I have to go out with him?" While shouting her refusal, she even shot me a glare. I glanced at her with absolute disdain, my expression highly contemptuous. "Do you think I'm happy to have you tag along? Mom is the one who's worried. She insisted that you come along." "Mom, look at him." Mu Yue pointed at me in anger. Peishueru slapped her hand down. "Even if you're unwilling, you still have to go. You said it yourself. It's just Xiaochen's older sister accompanying her brother to run some errands. Yet you have so many complaints. What exactly are you trying to do?" Peishueru's face darkened as she looked at her with a stern gaze. Mu Yue was intimidated by this look, and her arrogance instantly withered. "The matter is settled. Hurry up and eat breakfast. Xiaochen needs to head out." With tears in her eyes, she aggrievedly pulled her hand back. "Where exactly are you going?" "Inside the car," Mu Yue asked with a dark face. Since there was free labor, it would be a waste not to use it. I gave orders with a clear conscience. "Just drive forward, I'll give you directions." I was straight up treating her like a driver. Mu Yue was absolutely fuming, but she had no choice. Following my guidance, she drove all over the place, the route becoming more and more unfamiliar, and the roads getting narrower and narrower. She was completely dazed herself. Having lived in Haishi for so many years, she never knew Haishi had a place like this. Mu Yue obediently parked the car, stopping outside a run-down residential community. Sitting in the driver's seat and looking outside, a deep sense of confusion welled up in her heart. "All right, just wait for me here." I got out and slammed the car door shut, leaving behind those words before walking away. I didn't give Mu Yue any chance to question me at all. She originally wanted to ask what I was actually doing, but my attitude was truly infuriating. In a fit of anger, she simply stopped caring. I entered the residential community very smoothly. Without stopping, I walked straight toward one of the buildings. The greenery in the old community was terrible. The outer walls were mottled and ruined, and there wasn't even an elevator. The stairs also showed signs of dilapidation. I walked all the way up, reaching the 4th floor, and turned toward the left side. Once on the 4th floor, I could vaguely hear the sound of crying. If I guessed right, it was coming from the Wen family. Standing at the Wen family's doorstep, I reached out and knocked on the door. I needed to find an assistant as soon as possible. How did a grand prince and young master like me end up having to do everything personally? This didn't fit my status as a young master at all. The sound inside the house paused, and then the sound of footsteps rang out. Soon an inquiry came from behind the door. "Who is it?" "I'm a friend of Wen Yimo." The house was quiet for a moment before the door cracked open. Someone peered at me through the gap in the door. Seeing how young I was, they felt a bit more at ease. "Are you Yimo's colleague?" I nodded. Only then did the person inside open the door to let me in. After entering the house, I didn't waste words. I know Wen Yimo was murdered. Wen Yimo's parents weren't that old, but they had aged rapidly after their daughter's accident. Where there used to be a head of jet black hair, it was now heavily laced with silver strands. The wrinkles on their faces had also deepened a lot, and their eyes were filled with grief pain and suppressed hatred. How do you know Yimo was murdered? Do you know something? Hurry up and tell us." Mother Wen, who had been completely dispirited, instantly became agitated upon hearing my words. She grabbed my hand tight. "I can see Wen Yimo, and I can help you guys." Father Wen and Mother Wen froze, not understanding the meaning behind my words. Their daughter had already passed away. What did he mean by saying he could see their daughter? Although they insisted on refusing cremation in order to find the truth, keeping their daughter in the morgue. This young man couldn't have run off to the morgue, right? An absurd thought popped up in the couple's hearts. "I can see your daughter's soul, and I can help you fulfill your wish." I spoke up. Mother Wen's crying paused. She looked at me through her tears, her expression somewhat dazed. Their wish was naturally to drag out the culprit who killed their daughter and make them get the punishment they deserved. No, that still wasn't enough. If it was just serving a few years in prison, that would be far from enough. How could a few years in prison possibly make up for their Yimo's life? Whoever murdered Yimo should pay a painful price. Intense hatred surged in the depths of Mother Wen's eyes. As long as it's what you want, I can help you achieve it. But you need to pay a little reward. I made things crystal clear. Besides merit, I also needed to collect the absolute passion pure character, ultimate truth and supreme goodness of the human world, as well as the ultimate human benevolence and anomalies. The gate of rebirth is the gateway to a new life. Life means a beginning, meaning hope and joy, while death means an end, meaning despair and sorrow. And life and death are a cycle of reincarnation. Within reincarnation, there is still so much selfishness and greed, hypocrisy and malice. I needed to collect these to purify the resentment and maintain the resentment within a balanced range. After listening to my words, Mother Wen didn't hesitate at all. No matter what you want, as long as you can really help us, I'm willing to give you anything. Even if you want my life, that's fine too. I smiled and said, it's not that extreme. Everything I learned from Wen Yimo, I laid it out entirely to the two of them, without hiding a single thing. After hearing it, the couple burst into bitter crying once again. Seeing this, I could only sigh softly. The parting of life and death is indeed the most difficult thing for people in the world to accept. Crying Mother Wen suddenly knelt on the ground and even slammed her head down in a heavy kowtow. I want them to pay the price. I want them to live in regret for the rest of their lives. Amidst their extreme resentment, Mother Wen and Father Wen were also consumed by guilt and regret. Why didn't they notice something was off with their daughter earlier? If they could have known about their daughter's plight earlier, they would have definitely helped her resign. They could have taken her and moved to another place. Father Wen tried his best to restrain himself, but tears still streamed down his face. With one hand tightly covering his face, he couldn't hide the grief and regret on his features. The same goes for me. I want them to pay the price they deserve. I told Father Wen and Mother Wen, young to wait for my news, and then I walked out of the building. Peering through the car window, I saw Mu Yue had fallen asleep, her mouth even half open, which showed how soundly asleep she was. The corner of my mouth twitched, and this is supposed to be my older sister. I'd even look down on her if she were my younger sister. I originally wanted to knock on the car window to wake her up, but paused halfway through. I was just worrying about how to ditch Mu Yue. It wasn't convenient to keep carrying her along anyway. Since she was asleep, I might as well let her stay that way. So I turned my steps around, leaving Mu Yue still snoring away in the car. The wish of Wen Yimo's parents wasn't hard to fulfill. With my abilities, I could naturally give those people a profound lesson, completely without anyone noticing. But that didn't align with what they truly wanted deep down. So right now, the priority was still to expose the truth first, thinking of what Wen Yimo had experienced. Even I couldn't help but sigh. If this matter doesn't get a good ending, who would dare to do good deeds in the future? Public morals are truly degrading by the day. This society is developing rapidly, but human nature hasn't improved along with the economy. Instead, it has become increasingly selfish. Perhaps it's this materialistic society that has triggered the ugly side of human nature. I recalled my past. When I was the age of these kids, I was already a man who could stand on his own 2 feet, ready to marry and settle down, capable of supporting a whole household. My expression froze slightly, and a trace of confusion flashed across my face. How long has it been since I last thought about things from the past? It has really been too long. I have already forgotten. I wasn't a young master from the very beginning either. I vaguely remember that, before becoming the young master, I was also just an ordinary person in the mortal world. It was only after death that I entered the city of the dead. That time is too far away, and I've already forgotten how I initially became the young master of the city of the dead. My thoughts flashed past, and my figure gradually vanished. The pedestrians walking by on the street didn't change expression. Everyone was in a big hurry, and nobody noticed that the young boy beside them had suddenly vanished into thin air. I thought I would finish my business very quickly, but I didn't expect it to drag on until very late. Once I got busy, I even forgot about Mu Yue and went straight back home after finishing my business. The moment I entered the door, I noticed the atmosphere in the living room was off. It was extremely tense. Before I could even speak, I was hugged tightly by Pei Shueru, her voice full of anxiety. "You're finally back. You scared Mom to death. Mom thought something had happened to you." Father Mu also had a face full of anxiety, visibly letting out a sigh of relief upon seeing me, saying repeatedly, "It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back." It really scared him to death. He thought his son had secretly run away on his own. I blinked my eyes, belatedly realizing something. Just as I was about to speak and explain, Mu Yue, who had been scolded for an entire evening and had been anxious all day, was absolutely furious. She roared loudly at me, "Mu Chen, are you out of your mind? If you're going somewhere, can't you just say something? Do you know, we thought something happened to you. Do you know we looked for you the entire day?" Being roared at by her, I shrunk my shoulders a bit, feeling indeed somewhat guilty. "Shut up," Peishuero held me in her arms, turning around to glare fiercely at her fourth daughter. It must be you who made Xiaochen unhappy, so he left without saying a word. You always like to target Xiaochen normally. How many times have I told you, Xiaochen is your biological younger brother? Biological younger brother, Mu Yue, triggered by her mother's unreasonable words, felt like she was about to explode on the spot. Mom, can you please be reasonable for once? I literally didn't do anything today. Mu Yue clamored loudly. Seeing that the two of them were about to start a huge argument, I hurriedly stepped in to stop them. Mom, don't be angry. Listen to my explanation. Today's matter really has nothing to do with fourth sister. She indeed didn't do anything, and didn't even have an argument with me. Then why did you ditch her and leave by yourself? You haven't been here for very long, and you're not familiar enough with this city yet. Without someone following you around, it's easy to get lost. The key point was that Xiaochen wasn't very good at using a phone either. If he got lost, he wouldn't even know how to use navigation. I answered honestly, I went to handle some business, and told fourth sister to wait for me in the car. When I came back after finishing my business, I saw she was asleep. I thought maybe she woke up too early and didn't get enough sleep, so I wanted to let her sleep a bit longer. With this explanation, you might as well have said nothing. Is he doing this on purpose? I didn't mind her fierce gaze at all, and continued to say honestly, and then I left. I thought I'd come back very quickly after finishing my business, and that maybe she wouldn't even be awake by the time I got back. I didn't expect the time to exceed my estimation, and it dragged on until now. It wasn't that I really wanted Mu Yue to get scolded. I just didn't expect things to turn out this way either. Then why didn't you answer the phone this whole time? Mu Yue continued to interrogate me. I reached out and fumbled inside my cloth bag, pulling out a smartphone, looking it over left and right, with a completely puzzled look. I didn't hear the phone ring at all. This phone was bought for me by Peishuero, and she even gave me reminders before I went out today, but I really didn't hear any sound. Mu Yue snatched the phone away in one swift motion, lit up the screen, and was instantly amused by her own anger. She shoved the phone right in front of my face. Don't you even know how to look? Your phone is set to silent. I took a glance at the phone. I blinked innocently. I really don't know how to read it. I've never used a smartphone before. How was I supposed to know you could mute it? Mu Yue wanted to keep pressing the issue, but Peishuero curled her fingers and knocked her hard on the head. It hurt so much that she clutched her forehead and cried out in pain. If you hadn't fallen asleep in the car, would he have been so considerate as to not wake you up and go handle his business alone? So when it comes down to it, it's all your fault. You were told to go help, but look at you, sleeping like a log in the car. Your allowance for this month is docked. Peishuero announced outright, "What, docking my allowance? This month has only been going for 3 days." After saying that, Peishuero looked at the other kids, giving them a warning. If anyone dares to secretly fund her, whoever does it will have theirs docked next month. As for Mu Wanting, she gave her eldest daughter a meaningful glance. If you dare give Yue any money, I will immediately set up blind dates for you. Mu Wanting's expression changed instantly, and she quickly replied with a serious face, "Don't worry, Mom. I won't. I'll even keep an eye on the others to make sure they don't give fourth sister any cash." "Big sister," Mu Yue wailed. Mu Wanting looked at her with a helpless and pitying glance. "Fourth sister, don't blame me for being heartless. Better you than me. Fourth sister, where did you and Xiaochen go today?" Downstairs, Mushan didn't dare to cross Peishuero, but after they all went back to their rooms, he sneaked out again to look for Mu Yue. After offering some comfort, he feigned curiosity and asked, "Mentioning me?" made Mu Yue burst with anger. This biological younger brother was practically born to counter her, coming back just to collect a debt. However, facing Mushuan, she still kept her patience and explained it all. But as for where I went afterward, and what I did, she had no clue. Hearing this, Mushuan furrowed his brows, let alone Mu Yue. Even he didn't know what kind of place that was. People like them usually only went in and out of high-end establishments. They would naturally never visit a rundown area like that, let alone bother to find out about it. He knit his brows and pondered for a moment. Thinking of nothing, he could only let it drop. After returning to his room, for some reason he just couldn't put this matter out of his mind. Coincidentally, Zhang Yun called and they chatted for a bit, remembering the time his friend came over to his house. He couldn't help but grumble a few words to his buddy. To his surprise, Zhang Yun let out a shocked cry upon hearing it. Did he go to Wen Yimo's house? When the name Wen Yimo dropped, even Mushuan couldn't help but lose his focus for a moment, his hand tightening around the phone. Why would he go to Wen Yimo's house? He doesn't even know Wen Yimo. Zhang Yan grit his teeth. Left with no choice, he had to recount what happened that day. Mushuan gasped after listening to it, his hands and feet going somewhat weak. He didn't expect that Zhang Yan was actually present that day. "Ah Yan, did you?" Mushuan felt his throat tighten up. After asking this question, his heart climbed into his throat, as his brain began to race at top speed. If he really got tangled up in this matter, what should he do? Although he wasn't present that day, all the instances of bullying had already been exposed by her parents. If an investigation takes place, but very quickly he calmed down again. constantly reassuring himself in his heart. He had never personally bullied Wen Yimo. At most, Mu Xuan quickly recalled everything he had done, wondering if he had left behind any obvious flaws or any dirt that people could leverage against him. Ah, Xuan, are you even listening to me? Zhang Yan had been talking for ages without getting a reply, so he called out in confusion. Mu Xuan snapped out of it, steadying his emotions before saying, I'm listening, Ah Yan. What do you plan to do about this matter? Wen Yimo's parents don't seem like they're going to let it slide. If they, Zhang Yan quickly cut him off. Nothing's going to happen. Whether it's the school or our parents, nobody wants this to blow up. In the end, at most, a few people will be dragged out to admit their mistakes, apologize to them, and pay some compensation, then it'll be fine. Speaking of which, it was all done by those few college students. A few of us didn't actually do anything, let alone our respective parents. Even the school wants to save face. Mu Xuan tightly furrowed his brows, always feeling that things weren't that simple. As for the mall's surveillance, Zhang Yan wasn't worried at all. It had already been wiped out long ago. No one would ever find out. His father has a good relationship with the owner of the mall, so clearing the surveillance was just a matter of a single phone call. Even without this layer of relationship, he believed no one would dare offend their Zhang family right. Right now, I'm just worried that Mu Chen knows something. That day, I ran into him in the hallway in a panic. And the way he looked at me, plus that day he invited me to your house, and the things he said, it's like he's already certain of something. This was the real reason Zhang Yan had been feeling so uneasy all this time. Even when facing Mu Xuan, Zhang Yan didn't dare say too much, since Zhang Yan put it this way. Mu Xuan couldn't help but recall that day when seeing the news, the exact words I had said to him. His handsome face instantly turned pale. I might really have seen who did the bad deed. Even if I didn't see clearly who it was, I definitely saw them bullying someone. If he exposes this matter, just thinking about the consequences, Mu Xuan could no longer sit still. He forced himself to calm down. Ah, Yan. Mu Chen might really have seen something. That day he even asked me if I was involved in Wen Yimo's matter. But he doesn't seem to have mentioned it to my parents. Hurry up and find a way to tell the others. Let them fend for themselves. Mu Xuan's words made Zhang Yan panic even more. He hurriedly ended the call with him, turning around to call their usual group of buddies. Mu Xuan grit his teeth tightly. Recalling what happened before, he couldn't help but feel a bit of regret. If Wen Yimo wanted to help that loser, then so be it. You can help them for a moment, but not for a lifetime. Why did they have to fixate on going against her? At the time, he just felt her posture and her look were way too eyesore, as if she were some champion of justice, and they were the villains. That's why he said a few words to instigate his classmates. Originally, he just wanted to teach her a lesson, so she wouldn't mind other people's business in the future. But he really didn't expect that things would develop to today's extent. As he thought about it, he secretly blamed those guys again. He told them to get a little revenge, but look at them. They actually got addicted and kept holding a grudge against Wen Yimo without letting go. Isn't this just picking on the weak? Well, great. Now they've pushed it way too far. And then there's Wen Yimo. Back then, if she hadn't said she recorded it and wanted to expose them, he wouldn't have momentarily. Mu Xuan pondered over my matter, feeling I might have seen what happened at the mall, but it was impossible for me to know the whole story from start to finish. I don't even know how to use a phone, so what could I possibly know? The thought was beautiful, but reality was brutal. On the third day, the internet was completely flooded with the news. What made him even more panicked and terrified was that those surveillance videos, which had clearly been deleted long ago, were actually all exposed by someone at the same time. Even the surveillance of them making things difficult and humiliating Wen Yimo in the past was dug up. When he went downstairs, he saw that I was indeed sitting on the sofa again, staring intently at the TV. Moreover, the news was broadcasting exactly this matter. Seeing the familiar footage inside, he almost choked on his breath, his legs going soft. While Mu Xuan's heart was filled with dread and unease, Pei Shuiru walked over. Seeing him leaning against the handrail with a pale face, and his expression looking a bit off, she spoke up and asked, Xuan, what's wrong? Why does your face look so pale? Are you sick? Her voice startled me. I turned my head to look over, locking eyes with Mu Xuan's panicked gaze. Realizing something, I gave a meaningful smile. Mom is asking you a question. Mu Xuan's lips trembled a bit. Mom, I'm fine. Pei Shuiru gave him a strange look, then noticed the news I was watching and said caringly, Xiao Chen, you seem to be paying a lot of attention to this news. Why is that? I answered very bluntly. Didn't you and Dad plan to have me study at this school? No? Then I definitely need to learn more about the people and things related to this school. Pei Shuiru's whole body shuddered. Only then did a major problem suddenly dawn on her. That's right. The students of this school did such a thing, and they even dared to bully people outside the school. Then what about the students inside the school? Xiao Chen is going to study at a school like this? I guess. If anything happens, Pei Shuiru didn't even dare to think further. Ignoring the fact that Father Mu had just gone out, she immediately went to make a phone call. No, you can't go to this school to study. Also, Xuan, you have to transfer schools too. Studying at a school like this, your safety can't even be guaranteed. What's the point of studying there? I'll find another school for you guys. Muxian was completely stunned. How did it suddenly turn into transferring schools? He had never thought about transferring schools before. He was already familiar with his current school. His friends and social circle were all here. To suddenly change to a new one? Plus, they were already halfway through their senior year of high school. Changing schools at a time like this, do they still want to get into college or what? Muxian wanted to say something, but he also knew there was a high probability he couldn't talk his mother out of it. Therefore, he landed his gaze on me, hoping I would speak up to persuade her. As for which school I'd study at, I didn't care at all, so I didn't even spare him a glance from the corner of my eye. Muxian could only watch helplessly as his mother made the call. After the video of the Wen Yimo incident was exposed, the response from all parties was incredibly fast. The school immediately came forward to apologize, promising to strengthen the moral education of their students. The bubble tea shop owner was also crying bitterly. Most of the students involved came forward to apologize, with tears and snot streaming down their faces in front of the camera, putting on a look of deep regret. Wen Yimo stayed in my room, gnashing her teeth as she watched the people apologizing in the video. They're not sincere at all. They don't think they did anything wrong. I nodded slightly. Yeah, most people aren't sincerely admitting their mistakes, let alone feeling any regret. If this matter hadn't been exposed, and if the people online hadn't reacted so fiercely, demanding accountability and condemning them, if the public outcry hadn't become so huge, neither they nor their parents would have apologized. They wouldn't even take this matter to heart. Regret for an ordinary person who is already dead. Dead is dead. So what else is there to talk about? Others couldn't see it, but I could see it clearly. On the surface, they spoke with fake remorse and sincerity, but their eyes revealed total indifference, and even annoyance and resentment. They were naturally resentful of the people who forced them. What a massive loss of face this was for them. To them, Wen Yimo's life couldn't compare to their precious reputation. When Wen Yimo was alive, she was full of grief and indignation, along with a deep sense of utter confusion. She truly didn't understand what exactly she did wrong. Was her kindness and sense of justice a mistake? She had only helped out of good intentions, yet she was subjected to their groundless exclusion in return. Those people relied on their family backgrounds to apply pressure, destroying her peaceful life. That day when the conflict arose at the mall, she accidentally fell from the upper floor. With a loud thud, everything came to an end. Now they say they know they were wrong, begging everyone to give them a second chance. But who is going to give me a chance? They didn't give me a chance back then. The more Wen Yimo thought about it, the more her suppressed resentment threatened to spiral out of control. The temperature in the room instantly dropped quite a bit. Gusts of eerie wind blew, causing items to rattle wildly. I looked up at the swaying ceiling light and quickly spoke up to soothe her emotions. How about I let you personally go vent your anger? As if a pause button had been pressed, the commotion in the room stopped instantly. Let me personally go vent my anger. No, I can't get close to them. Wen Yimo furrowed her brows. She naturally wanted to avenge herself, but for some unknown reason, she couldn't get close to them and could only watch from afar. The moment she got too close, she would be blocked. Otherwise, she would have torn them apart long ago. Just because you can't doesn't mean I don't have a way. They did something dirty, so it's not surprising if a ghost comes knocking at midnight, I stated with a calm face. Probably because they really had a guilty conscience after Wen Yimo died. A few of them were indeed terrified, so they put on protective amulets, especially the one who caused her to fall. Although that person quickly stopped taking it seriously, they still felt somewhat guilty down deep, carrying a blessed jade pendant on their person. Wen Yimo had a gentle personality when she was alive, so it was impossible for her to suddenly become an OP vengeful spirit after death. Therefore, her inability to get close to those few people wasn't anything strange. However, these items were useless against me. Wen Yimo was instantly back to full health. If that's possible, that would be the best. But there's one thing you must remember. You cannot directly harm anyone's life. Sometimes death isn't revenge, but a form of release. If you carry a life on your hands, you won't be able to smoothly reincarnate. I gave her an extremely serious warning. Wen Yimo was a kind person, and she loved helping others when she was alive, only to unfortunately meet with a tragic accident. If no further accidents happen, she will have a good next life. But if she commits murder, then the situation becomes completely different. There was no need to ruin her own happy next life. For the sake of these villainous people, Wen Yimo bit her lip, feeling somewhat unwilling. After a moment she nodded. Okay, I won't take their lives. I want them to live in the shadows forever. I slapped out a glowing talisman, which slowly landed on Wen Yimo, and quickly vanished from sight. Before Wen Yimo could even react, she felt something injected into her soul, as if she was instantly filled with power. Go on, haste makes waste. So take it slow. If you encounter anything you can't handle, just call my name, and I'll come save you. Wen Yimo looked at me with gratitude, her eyes instantly tearing up. There are many bad people in this world who will apply groundless pressure just because someone seems like an easy target. But there are also many good people Like the netizens speaking up for her and like me, who have no relation to her, yet are still willing to spare no effort to help her. Since I said she could go vent her anger, one emo didn't want to stay for another second and quickly vanished from my room. From her fall to the exposure of the matter, it had only been a short few days. In the beginning, that person was indeed quite panicked. After all, a life was lost. But this panic quickly faded, turning into complete indifference. For those born into power and wealth, the environment they lived in since childhood, and the education they received, made it extremely easy for them to develop a flawed perception, feeling that they were superior to others and that ordinary people were naturally inferior. There was nothing that money couldn't solve. And if money couldn't solve it, there was always power. Jiang Yan wasn't the one who caused her to fall. But that day at the mall, he also participated in the exclusion of Wen Yimo. Jiang Yan indeed had a rough time these past few days. He had just found out about the news from Mu Xuan, and before he even had time to do anything, the matter spiraled completely out of control. Only then did he tell his parents about it, and he was naturally given a harsh scolding. However, his heart settled down again. Although his parents scolded him, they would absolutely never leave him to fend for himself. With the influence of his Jiang family, wanting to clear his name from this matter was an easy task. So Jiang Yan wasn't worried now, even thinking that at worst he'd just transfer schools. There were plenty of good schools in Haishi, so he wasn't afraid of having nowhere to go. He sat on his bed, leaning against the headboard while fully engrossed in a variety show on his phone, laughing out loud from time to time, showing absolutely no sign of being affected by the situation. When Yimo floated into his room, and seeing this exact scene, her anger shot straight to the top of her head. Look at that, these people didn't have the slightest hint of remorse. They would never change their ways. To them, people who were beneath them weren't even worth as much as dogs or cats. When Yimo's fury mixed with her massive resentment, causing the crystal chandelier in Jiang Yan's room to immediately start swaying. It even flickered a few times, making a few buzzing sounds, as if there was something wrong with the fixture. Jiang Yan was startled by the sudden disturbance. Looking up at the chandelier on the ceiling, he couldn't help but mumble, "What's going on? Is the light broken?" He stared at it for a moment, and since the chandelier went back to normal, he didn't pay it any mind. But the moment he focused back on his phone, the lights in the room began to flicker again, and he could faintly hear the buzzing of the electrical current. He still didn't think too much of it, pouting as he got out of bed to test the light switch. But this test broke him out in a cold sweat. The switch had completely stopped working. He didn't turn it off yet. It turned off on its own. He didn't turn it on, yet it turned itself back on. Moreover, even though he clearly kept the windows closed, the room felt as if a gust of wind had blown inside. He also felt a sudden piercing chill. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Wen Yimo, and his face instantly paled as he reflexively turned around to open the door and run out. But no matter how hard he tried, the perfectly fine door simply wouldn't open. Open up, open the door. Someone come quickly, save me. Someone come. Jiang Yan couldn't suppress the fear in his heart and began to scream at the top of his lungs. His screams were truly too terrifying. And since it was late at night, they caused the hearts of everyone else in the Jiang family villa to race wildly in fear. They sprinted toward his room in a panic. Father Jiang pounded on the door from outside. "Jiang Yan, what happened? Open the door. What are you doing in your room? I can't open it. There's a ghost. Hurry up and save me." Jiang Yan cried out with a trembling voice, continuously pounding on the door. The sheer terror in his voice pierced right through the door and was clearly delivered to those outside. "Stop fooling around. Calm down. How can there be ghosts in this world? Don't scare yourself. Is the door lock stuck? Calm down first and take a look. Dad will have someone fetch the key." Father Jiang spoke while exchanging a glance with Mother Jiang, both of them automatically thinking of the recent events. Father Jiang's expression turned a bit ugly. He was both angry at and worried for his son. Most likely the kid had a guilty conscience, so he was just scaring himself. Fortunately, the Jiang family lived in a detached villa, and the houses weren't very close to each other. Otherwise, with him screaming like this, everyone in the entire villa district would have heard it. The servant quickly brought over the key, but no matter how they turned it, the lock wouldn't budge. Inside the room, Jiang Yan's screams never stopped, accompanied by a series of crashing noises, sounding like light fixtures being smashed to pieces. Following one final loud crash, the room door that had been jammed this whole time finally opened. The Jiang family hurriedly pushed the door open and rushed inside. What caught their eyes was a scene of total devastation. Inside the originally luxuriously decorated room, the ornaments were scattered all over the place. The lampshade of the bedside light hung completely askew, and the fallen curtains were a total mess. The crystal chandelier had crashed down from the ceiling, with shards of glass scattered absolutely everywhere. Even a corner of the carpet had been ripped up. The entire Jiang family was completely dumbfounded. Looking closer, Jiang Yan was lying behind the door, completely knocked out, and cold sweat was constantly breaking out on his forehead. Everyone scrambled to carry him away, and then hurriedly called for a doctor. After evaluating him, the doctor found it very strange. Young Master Jiang seems to have suffered a massive fright. Did he go through something terrifying? The Jiang family's expressions all turned unnatural. Father Jiang forced a twitch of his lips. To be honest, we aren't too sure either. This child was in his own room. We thought he was asleep. Who knew that when we heard his screams and went to check, we'd find that he had already fainted? What could they possibly say? Say that their son had a guilty conscience and scared himself. Say that he saw a ghost even if he didn't care about his reputation. The Jiang family still wanted to save face. The doctor didn't think much of it. He's mostly fine, but the injury on his forehead is quite severe. I'm afraid it will leave a scar in the future. Hearing this, the Jiang family's expressions instantly turned cold. After the doctor left, Jiang Yan woke up very quickly. However, he was clearly spooked out of his mind. Before he could even fully regain consciousness, he fell straight into a terrifying nightmare. Don't stay away. It wasn't me, I didn't harm you. I wasn't the one who pushed you downstairs. Stay away. Don't come looking for me. His eyes were still tightly shut, but his hands were continuously flailing and struggling. His face filled with panic and absolute horror. Mother Jiang's expression changed after hearing his words clearly. Jiang Yan, hurry up and wake up. It's okay now, you're just having a nightmare. Wake up. She frantically reached out to slap her son's face, but got absolutely no response. In the end, she steeled her heart and gave him a hard slap, which finally managed to wake him up. Jiang Yan opened his eyes, and seeing his mother, he burst out crying with a loud wail, instantly throwing himself into Mother Jiang's arms, tightly clutching her clothes, while his whole body shook uncontrollably. Mom, there's a ghost. I saw her, it's Wen Yimo. She came back to settle the score with me. She said I harmed her and wants my life as compensation. I said I didn't, but she didn't believe me. She wanted to strangle me to death. He never knew there really were ghosts in this world. Having clearly witnessed what happened in the room, that simply couldn't be explained by common sense. Moreover, he really saw her, wearing the exact same clothes as that day. It was truly Wen Yimo's ghost. Jiang Yan, you're losing it. How can there be any ghosts in this world? You're just scaring yourself. Don't overthink things. You don't need to worry about that matter. Nothing bad will happen. Our family can handle it. No one can harm you, just be good and don't overthink. In a few days, this whole thing will blow over. Mother Jiang's expression was extremely ugly, and she was also feeling a bit anxious in her heart from what he said, but she still held him tightly and comforted him, probably feeling a sense of security in his mother's arms. His emotions slowly calmed down. In order to completely convince him, Mother Jiang half persuaded and half forced him to go take a look. The room had already been cleaned up by the servants, so it wasn't as messy as before. Look, it's just that the chandelier wasn't installed properly and fell down. As for those things you mentioned, it's because you didn't close the window properly and left a gap. Didn't you notice how strong the wind is today? When the wind blows in, it can naturally move things around. And to think you're an educated kid? Mother Jiang spoke to him softly, reaching out to poke his forehead. Mother Jiang's face showed zero flaws, and her expression was as natural as could be. So much so that Jiang Yan began to waver, doubting if he was just overthinking things and acting like a startled bird, scaring himself over nothing. Stop scaring yourself. Just sleep in the guest room for tonight. Tomorrow I'll have someone clean up in here. We won't install a crystal chandelier anymore. It's too dangerous. Hesitantly, Jiang Yan was led back to the guest room. Jiang Yan, what nonsense are you talking about? Did you watch some horror movie? That's why you had psychological suggestions and felt like there was a ghost. Mu Xuan didn't expect his good friend had called him over, only to say something so absurd. He claimed he saw Wen Yimo's ghost. How was that even possible? But in just one short night, Jiang Yan's spirit had become completely drained, and he had even become somewhat paranoid. He looked around in a panic, nervously lowering his voice. No, Xuan, it's real. Everything I'm saying is true. Last night, I really saw her ghost. She was right in my room, and she made a total mess of it. She said I harmed her, and came to settle the score with me. Later, when I fell asleep, the blanket suddenly floated in midair. I saw it with my own eyes. Jiang Yan's eyes were filled with panic and unease, his scalp tingling just talking about last night's events. Last night, he had been persuaded by his mother. Seeing no commotion in the guest room for a long time, he had fallen asleep with peace of mind. But who knew that after falling asleep, he would feel freezing cold? He was clearly covered by a thin, thick down duvet, and the room temperature wasn't low either. Later, unable to bear the cold, he woke up. Opening his eyes, he saw the duvet covering his body, actually floating in midair. He instinctively let out a scream, but this time no one came. The sound seemed to be cut off by something. No matter how he screamed, no one came. Terrified, he shrank straight under the bed. But it was completely useless. Wen Yimo's voice even echoed in the room, sounding as if it came straight from hell. He didn't even know how he endured it and survived. Jiang Yan had dark circles under his eyes, his gaze shifting in terror, and his posture extremely tense. A single slight sound could scare him out of his wits. Mu Xuan furrowed his brows tightly, feeling that what his friend said was impossible, but looking at his appearance, it didn't seem like a lie. For a moment, Mu Xuan couldn't make up his mind either. Just as he was hesitating, Zhang Yan stared at him with a bizarre expression and spoke in a low, eerie tone. Ashuan, when Yimo came to find me and won't let me off. So she won't let you off either. Mushan's heart skipped a beat, and he scolded him in a low voice to refute him. Zhang Yan, are you insane? There are absolutely no ghosts in this world. Wake up. Besides, her accident has nothing to do with you, and it has even less to do with me. Hearing this, Zhang Yan's expression turned dazed for a moment, and he muttered to himself, yeah, I wasn't the one who caused her to fall downstairs. Why would she come looking for me? That day, he had only offered a suggestion, and hadn't forced her to do it. If anyone was to blame, she could only blame herself for being careless. She was already dead, so why come back to scare him? As he thought about it, a vicious urge arose from Zhang Yan's fear. His paranoid eyes turned fierce, carrying a trace of resolute malice. Fine. You want to turn into a ghost to scare me right then? I'll just hire someone to exorcise her, shattering her soul into pieces, so she can't even be a ghost. Once he had a plan in mind, Zhang Yan couldn't sit still for even a single second. Leaving behind a sentence, he hurriedly left. It's just that Zhang Yan's wishful thinking was too naive. The Zhang family didn't believe him at all. Thinking that he had a major psychological issue, Mother Zhang could only try to comfort and soothe him time and again, but didn't say a single word about hiring someone to perform a ritual. Although high society cared about feng shui and would hire masters to help arrange layouts, that was purely for gathering wealth and improving luck. Things like ghosts were pure nonsense to them. Just as Zhang Yan was becoming increasingly anxious, another terrifying thing happened, which completely destroyed Zhang Yan's sanity. Even Mu Xuan was so frightened that he fell ill. That day, the classmate who led the bullying suddenly fell gravely ill and was rushed into the ER overnight. Although she was saved through emergency treatment, her mind had completely collapsed. She curled up on the hospital bed all day, all day, muttering the words, I was wrong, over and over like a lunatic. Her parents wept inconsolably, adamantly claiming someone had harmed their daughter, insisting it was done by Wen Yimo's parents. But investigations showed that this was completely impossible. Wen Yimo's parents live far away from their house. It takes an hour to drive there in a straight line, and they have a rock-solid alibi, having never been to this place at all. There were no signs of break-ins in the house either, and the alarm system was completely intact. Wen Yimo was just an ordinary working girl, but her tragic end sparked a massive public backlash, becoming one of the hottest trending topics. And since it involved the huge gap between the rich and poor, the topic gained even more insane traction. The parents of the wealthy kids involved tried to throw money at it, but every time they paid to take down the hot search, it bounced right back. It even pushed the trend higher and leaked their personal info, scaring them into giving up and playing dead. So even though a few days had passed, people online were still continuously discussing this matter. Now that the classmate involved had suddenly died, the news spread everywhere instantly. Unlike the pity and sympathy shown to Wen Yimo, there was absolutely zero goodwill toward that classmate. After all, the public's eyes are sharp. This was completely well-deserved karma. She indirectly ruined someone's life, and now it's a life for a life. Why should they get to move on just by admitting they were wrong? To be so cold-blooded at such a young age, Wen Yimo's soul can finally rest in peace now. Wen Yimo cried uncontrollably. I sat quietly by her side watching her cry, neither stopping her nor saying a word to comfort her. All right, now your wish is fulfilled, it's time to move on. The person who caused her to fall was literally scared to death. Wen Yimo didn't actually do anything to her. She was scared to death simply because she had a guilty conscience. An innocent person naturally wouldn't be afraid, but someone with a guilty conscience sees ghosts in everything. It wasn't good for Wen Yimo to linger in the mortal world for too long. She slowly stopped crying, raised her face to look at me quietly, and asked in a small, pleading voice, "Can I go see my parents one last time?" I looked at her and firmly refused. There's no need. Your parents have finally pulled through. If you go see them now, it'll just rip open their wounds again and leave them bleeding all over again. Wen Yimo froze for a moment, lowering her eyes as she realized this made total sense. However, I can let you visit them in a dream. Go say your goodbyes to your parents there. Wen Yimo was overjoyed and deeply grateful. No. Thank you so much. I spoke very bluntly, it's just a business transaction. Wen Yimo knew that my help required a reward. Just as I said, we both got what we wanted. I helped her punish the wrongdoers, dissolving the massive resentment in her heart. Her parents wouldn't have to face the powerful elites alone, running the risk of being retaliated against at any moment. She could finally leave in peace. Father Wen and Mother Wen slept soundly that night. This was the first time they had slept so peacefully since their daughter's tragedy. In their dream, they saw their daughter still looking as sweet and well-behaved as when she was alive. With a brilliant smile on her face, she told them she was leaving and asked them to take good care of themselves from now on. Finally, she mentioned she got help from a master to vent her anger. For some reason, the couple instantly thought of that young man who claimed to be their daughter's friend. They urgently questioned their daughter, but she didn't say anything, just smiled at them and said her goodbyes with deep reluctance, finally fading away from the dream world. Tears rolled down the couple's faces in their sleep. They knew their daughter was truly gone this time. Perhaps there really is a beautiful next life, and their daughter will definitely have a wonderful reincarnation. She will grow up safe and sound, making up for all the regrets of this lifetime. Although their daughter didn't explicitly admit it, they felt the master she mentioned was exactly that young man who visited their house that day. This meant he was absolutely no ordinary person. When the couple woke up, they were thinking about how to thank me, only for me to appear in their home once again. The moment the two saw me, they were about to fall to their knees to thank me for helping their daughter fulfill her wish. I reached out to stop them. Do you still remember what I said before? My help comes with a price. Now is the time for me to claim my reward. Are you willing to give it to me? Yes, we are. We're willing. We'll give you anything as long as we have it. The couple spoke with absolute sincerity. I saw nothing but pure kindness in their eyes. I smiled slightly and nodded. Good. Now close your eyes and silently meditate on the greatest reward you can give me. The couple exchanged a glance, and without any questions or hesitation, they slowly closed their eyes, their hearts filled with utmost sincerity. Before long, I saw a streak of pure golden light slowly rising from the tops of their heads, and a satisfied smile appeared on my face. This was the merit they had accumulated. The purer the light, the truer their gratitude, and what they were willing to give up was bound to be the greatest. This was also the ultimate reward I wanted. I pulled out an exquisite blessing pouch, gave a gentle wave of my small hand, and the two golden lights darted into the pouch. After tying the string, I said in a relaxed tone, "All right, I've already received the reward you gave. You are both good and kind people, because you have a kind heart, and do good deeds to accumulate merit. That's why Wen Yimo was able to meet me." The couple instantly froze for a moment. Mother Wen couldn't help but blurt out, "If that's the case, then why did our daughter still—" I gazed at her quietly. Wen Yimo was destined to face this calamity. Although she passed away early in this life, because you did good deeds and accumulated merit, she will not only smoothly reincarnate, but she will also be born into a better family next time. She will grow up safe and sound just as you wish, get married, have children, and then pass away peacefully in old age. Is this true? Mother Wen's eyes lit up slightly. Of course. I never lie. That's good, that's good. Mother Wen couldn't help but choke up with tears. Before leaving, I originally wanted to say something, but the words stopped at the tip of my tongue and I swallowed them back, feeling there was no need to do something so unnecessary. Father Wen and Mother Wen had been doing good deeds for a long time. Having lost a child they truly loved, they would eventually be blessed with another child. Wen Yimo's departure brought immense pain, but it also signified another kind of new birth. When I got home, I happened to see Dr. Song. Seeing the doctor, I raised an eyebrow. Musan had fallen gravely ill and was bedridden. They had changed a few doctors but showed zero signs of improvement, which worried the Mu family sick. Of course, this definitely didn't include me. Peisuero walked down with a deeply furrowed brow, but her expression eased up a bit upon seeing me. Ah Chen is back. Is the matter you went to handle all sorted out? If anything comes up, you must remember to tell Mom. Don't keep it all bottled up by yourself. Mom, my business is already settled. It went pretty smoothly. That's good. Peisuero nodded gently, her eyes filled with a deep sense of worry. Now that Ashuan is sick, nothing else can happen to Ah Chen. I don't know what's going on with Ashuan either. He was perfectly fine, yet he suddenly fell ill. Going to the hospital for a checkup didn't reveal any issues, and we've changed several doctors. He's taken medicine and gotten shots, but there's just no sign of improvement at all. It's worrying us to death. Mom, what did the doctor say? Seeing me proactively showing concern for Mushuan, Peishoru seemed rather happy, thinking I was just cold on the outside, but warm on the inside, caring for my brother. Still the same, saying he has pent-up emotional distress. But how is that even possible? What kind of pent-up distress could a kid like Ashuan have that's severe enough to make him bedridden? In my opinion, these doctors are just totally incompetent. If it were back when Ashuan just found out about his background, she might actually believe it. But more than a month had already passed, and he was clearly perfectly fine before. Suddenly falling ill like this was obviously not due to that reason. But when asked, Ashuan couldn't give an explanation either. I smiled meaningly. Perhaps the doctor isn't wrong. He might indeed have some mental illness. Isn't there a saying that heart sickness requires a remedy for the heart? Peishoru instantly froze. Mental illness, but where would Ashuan get a mental illness from? I smiled with absolute pure and harmless innocence. Then you'd have to ask him what kind of things he's done. Peishuero looked at her son suspiciously. Ah Chen, do you know something? It wasn't that I wanted to bother with Mushuan. How he's doing has absolutely nothing to do with me. But with him falling ill at home like this, the whole household has been turned completely upside down, and his parents are worried sick right along with him. Just look at my mom's usually perfectly maintained eyes. She's literally developing fine lines from all this worrying. I paused for a moment and casually spoke up, Mom, have you seen the news online? The incident that happened at the mall. Peishoru, of course, remembered that incident and had been keeping an eye on its development. After all, it caused quite a massive scene back then. But isn't that matter already settled? That girl accidentally lost her footing and fell. The mall's surveillance footage was leaked after the culprit was scared to death, causing an absolute uproar in public opinion. She actually knew that kid's parents too. Though they were just casual acquaintances, she never expected this. Now even their company's business has been heavily affected, and rumor has it they're already packing up to move away. She couldn't help but sigh after finding out the whole story. But what does this have to do with Ashwan? I said in a nonchalant tone. Zhang Yan's situation right now is way worse than Mu Xuan's. He's been screaming all day about seeing that female employee's ghost. That day at the mall, Zhang Yan was right there among them. It's just that he got lucky and hid in the back so his face wasn't really caught on camera. So the moment that classmate died, he was instantly scared half to death himself. Once the realization hit her, Peishwaru's heart skipped a beat, her eyes widening in total shock, with a face full of absolute disbelief. I didn't outright say that Mu Xuan was involved, but Peishwaru could connect the dots herself. Zhang Yan and Mu Xuan are best buddies. They go to the same school and are in the same class. With all the vile things Zhang Yan has done, could Mu Xuan really be completely clueless about it? How could that even be possible? Peishwaru obviously understood this point too, so her face instantly turned incredibly unsightly. I left it at that, and didn't say any more. That evening, after Father Mu came home from work, Peishwaru told him about this matter, and he was also completely shocked upon hearing it. After all, in his long-standing impression of him, Ashwan had always been a good, sensible kid. How could he possibly do something like this? But thinking about his abnormal behavior over the past few days, Father Mu's heart sank all the way to the bottom. The two of them went straight to Mu Xuan's room. Seeing them walk inside, Mu Xuan forced himself to sit up from the bed. Dad, Mom, why did you both come over? Is something wrong? Mu Xuan's state of mind right now was awful. His face unhealthily pale, his eyes bloodshot, and his gaze exhausted as he desperately tried to keep it together. He didn't look like someone who had just been sick for a few days, but rather like someone who had been ill for a very long time. Father Mu sat down, his expression extremely solemn, as he looked at him with a stern gaze. Ashwan, we have some questions for you, and you must answer honestly. Mu Xuan's heart skipped a beat, and he subconsciously glanced at Peishwaru. Seeing that her expression was equally solemn, he felt a wave of confused, clueless panic, but he still nodded gently. Okay? Let me ask you, were you involved in that incident? He asked straight to the point, catching Mu Xuan completely off guard. And precisely because it was so sudden, Mu Xuan didn't have time to hide his expression, which was caught dead on by both of them. The look on his face literally said everything. A deep sense of disappointment welled up in their eyes. The sweet, kind son they saw in front of them actually had this kind of personality behind their backs. This was just far too disappointing for them. They didn't remember ever raising him to act like this. Peishwaru felt especially heartbroken and disappointed. She prided herself on never slacking off on his education, constantly checking in on every single aspect of his life, and using every opportunity to teach him a lesson whenever something happened, instilling proper values in him. She didn't just throw him to a private tutor and ignore him like many other wealthy households do. But why on earth did Ashwan do this? Why did he have to go and alienate a classmate and still show no remorse even after being found out by adults? So much so that it ultimately caused a fatal accident, meeting their disappointed gazes. Mu Xuan knew that he could no longer keep this a secret at all. All the panic, fear, worry, and terror that had been weighing heavily on his chest these days instantly erupted. He burst into tears with a loud wail, quickly crying so hard that he was gasping for air. He defended himself while weeping. Dad, Mom, I've disappointed you. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong now. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. I didn't really do anything to Miss Wen. I didn't know she would react like that. You claim you didn't know about something like this. Father Mu was so furious that he didn't even know what to say, whether a bad deed should be done or not. Did he not know that is he an ignorant 3-year-old child? He is already 17 years old. He has received over a decade of schooling. Does he not even have basic moral values? Why on earth did you do this? You act so sweet and sensible in front of us. Could it be that it was all an act? Why did you have to alienate someone else? Mu Xuan bit his lip, his eyes flickering with hesitation, not daring to voice what was truly on his mind. He knew that tiny shred of jealousy was wrong, but he simply couldn't control it. From childhood to adulthood, he had always been excellent, the most dazzling person in the crowd, the moon surrounded by stars. But that classmate stole his spotlight and snatched away his #1 throne. You still won't come clean. Peishwaru snapped in a furious, sharp voice. Mu Xuan couldn't stop shaking all over, his pale lips trembling, as he shared the reason with great shame. The more he spoke, the lower his voice became. Peishwaru wished she could just faint right there. What on earth was she hearing? Just because someone else was more excellent than him, he became intensely jealous deep down, so he had his close friend alienate them outside. When caught by others, he didn't correct his mistake, but even used his family background to threaten them. If he was jealous of others' good grades, why didn't he work hard to overtake them? Instead, he resorted to such underhanded methods to harm people. She was shocked and incredulous. Looking at Mu Xuan, she only felt this son was a total stranger. Was it because she didn't know her son well enough, or because she had never truly understood him at all? She couldn't help but fall into deep self-doubt. Pei Shuero's gaze terrified Mu Xuan. He threw himself into her arms, tightly hugging her waist, and cried out loudly, "Mom, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to do it. I didn't know it would turn out like this. In the beginning, I just wanted to see her make a fool of herself. I didn't want to harm anyone. Really, as for the things they did later, I really didn't participate in them. I didn't know about the mall incident that day either. Zhang Yan never mentioned it to me. He only told me after the matter blew up big time. That was when I found out. If I had been there, I would definitely have stopped it. I didn't want to harm anyone. Dad, I really know I was wrong. I didn't expect things to become like this. I'll never dare to do it again. I'll never be jealous of others again. I will work hard to improve myself. Dad, Mom, please believe me." Mu Xuan's tone was urgent and full of pleading. He wasn't of the Mu family's biological bloodline. Right now, he was just an adopted son. He couldn't let his parents be completely disappointed in him. If they became disappointed in him, would they stop wanting him and cruelly send him away? Then, where else could he go? Mu Xuan was already gripped by panic and unease. The classmates who participated in this matter had met bizarre fates, and the main culprit who caused the fall was literally scared to death. His nerves were snapped to the absolute limit, and his psychological endurance had reached its ceiling. Now that it was discovered by the Mu couple, the thought of being kicked out kept flashing in his mind. Regret, terror, fear, unease, and despair all rushed into his heart at once. Plus, he hadn't rested well for many days, so as anxiety flared up inside him, he caught his breath wrong and fainted straight away. The Mu family was thrown into a frantic mess once again. Everyone went to Mu Xuan's room, except for me, who didn't show my face at all. Mu Yue was furious and muttered a few complaints, which was caught dead on by Pei Shueru. She was already heavily triggered by this entire situation, so hearing her second daughter target her eldest son for Mu Xuan's sake, she instantly blew her top. With a harsh, stern expression, she thoroughly reamed her out. "Why are you targeting Ah Chen all day long? He is your biological younger brother, not your sworn enemy. Besides, is Ah Chen a doctor? Whether he comes or not, what difference does it make?" Pei Shueru was actually a very lenient mother. She usually looked like she was about to discipline the kids, but it was mostly just to scare them. She rarely reamed them out like this, so Mu Yue was completely stunned by the scolding. Liu Wanting and the twins had just walked back in. The few of them exchanged glances, simultaneously feeling suspicious. Did something happen at home that they didn't know about? The Mu sisters sensed the unusual atmosphere. Initially, they just suspected something was up, but now they were basically certain. The only one completely unaffected was still me. I just went about my business as usual, spending all day obsessed with watching TV shows. They had originally said they would hire a private tutor for me, but now this matter had been put on the back burner. While others had heavy piles of homework, aside from watching TV every day, only mealtime could get me off the couch. "Ah, Chen, you've been staying home all day. Did something happen at home? I'm busy at the company, and sometimes overlook things happening here. If anything went down, remember to tell your oldest sister." Mu Wanting rarely had a day off at home, but she still spent half the day busy in the study. Only after coming downstairs did she see me watching TV. She paused, walked over, and sat down next to me. Without even moving my gaze, I replied, "Nothing's wrong at home. Everything's fine. Is nothing really wrong? Mom and Dad seem pretty troubled these past few days. Is it because of your schooling?" Since I wouldn't talk, she could only test the waters herself. It had been over a month since I returned to the Mu family, but Mu Wanting was still very distant with her brother. Hearing this, I finally spared her a glance, though the look in my eyes wasn't quite normal. "Why say it's because of my business? You assume that if something's wrong at home, it must be me. That's not what I meant. I know you're very well behaved." "No, I'm not well behaved." Mu Wanting felt a wave of mental exhaustion. "If you want to know, go ask Mom and Dad." "Oh, Dad. I don't want anyone talking smack about me in the future, driving a wedge between your relationships." I shifted my focus right back to the TV. Mu Wanting raised an eyebrow. Why did those words sound so awkward? Could it be that Ah Xuan, thinking back to the past 2 nights? Mu Wanting couldn't help but furrow her brows. Before she could find a chance to ask, the new year arrived. The heavy atmosphere in the Mu family finally eased up. Mu Xuan, who had been sick for days, recovered, except the whole guy had become a lot more silent. This was the first new year I spent after returning to the Mu family. Father Mu and Pei Shuero took it very seriously, having people start preparations way in advance. Not only was the house meticulously decorated, but even the prepared New Year's Eve dinner featured dishes that were fully thought out. Everything revolved completely around me. As for the others in the family, they had already celebrated so many New Years. What's wrong with letting Ah Chen have it this year? Isn't that just a matter of course? When New Year's Eve arrived, the house was incredibly lively, and the previous gloom seemed non-existent. Father Mu and Pei Shuero's attitude toward Mu Xuan didn't show any noticeable change either. The two had a talk once after that day, and never brought up the matter again. This was my first time celebrating the Lunar New Year in the mortal world, and I found absolutely everything to be novel, making me feel incredibly happy. Not only did I smile more often, but my temper also seemed to get a lot better, as I didn't even snap at Mu Yue, which made Pei Shuiru and Father Mu overjoyed. After the new year, the family prepared to return to the capital. The Mu family's core foundation was in the capital, and old Mrs. Mu lived there as well. As the head of the family, Father Mu should naturally bring the kids to pay New Year greetings. Otherwise, it would easily invite criticism. Usually both sides would spend New Year's Eve separately, unless there was a special occasion to gather in the capital for a reunion dinner. Moreover, since I had just returned, it was time to take me to the capital to get introduced. Aside from the 3 siblings, the Mu family had other extended relatives as well, and they are still in touch to this day. On the second day of the new year, the family packed up and set off, taking their private jet back to the capital. Since it was my first time flying, I was full of curiosity, gluing my whole self to the window on the plane, staring intently outside, which completely amused Pei Shuiru. Seeing this, Mu Yue opened her mouth to roast me, but Pei Shuiru threw her a sharp glare, and she instantly shut her mouth, losing her nerve. Once we arrived in the capital's territory, the Mu family had people arranged to pick us up, and we got into the car, heading straight for the old family mansion. Before setting off, Pei Shuiru had briefly explained to me the complicated relationships and connections here, and I just nodded slightly after listening, without saying any useless words. Arriving in front of the Mu family's old mansion, I habitually sized up the surrounding environment. The Mu family had stood strong in the capital for over a century. Now the ancestral home had naturally undergone constant renovations, gradually evolving into its current look. It wasn't the kind of European-style villa that wealthy people usually liked, but rather a massive square-shaped courtyard mansion, boasting a traditional Chinese style, where one could find profound traces of history. Generations of the Mu family had maintained the mansion exceptionally well. Rumor has it that a grandmaster was consulted for the site selection and architecture back then. Before the family head passed away back in the day, he left a will, stating that future generations must never change the address of the ancestral home, must not easily alter the foundation, and absolutely must not resell the old mansion. If renovations were needed, they could only be done on top of the existing foundation. Anyone who violated this would lose their inheritance eligibility, precisely because this rule was set. Strictly speaking, the ancestral home hadn't been modified much, and what changed was only the upper structures. I could tell that the ancestral home did indeed bless the descendants, with so much fortune accumulated over the years. A faint purple aura was visible in the air above the residence, yet it also showed signs of decline and decay, indicating that the ancestral home's protective effect was fading. By the looks of it, no one had messed with the ancestral home, so the issue could only lie within the descendants themselves. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. Now, this is getting interesting. Happy New Year. The first greeting upon entering the house was Happy New Year. Today, it wasn't just Father Mu's family who came over. The oldest sister who had married out was also here with her family. Oh my. This must be Ah-chen, right? I'm so sorry. Something came up at home last time, so we couldn't make it to Haishi. You mustn't blame your aunt. Okayaoxuan noticed me right away. Standing beside Pei Shuiru, a fresh face could only be the son her third brother had brought back. Hello, aunt. I am Mu Chen. I put on a well-behaved act. Mu Qiaoxian looked at me with a beaming smile, discreetly sizing me up. You look so much like your parents. I am their son, so of course I look like them. Mu Qiaoxian's smile seemed to freeze for a split second, but she acted as if nothing happened and said, That's true. So this is the cousin from that deep mountain Taoist temple. He looks totally like a country bumpkin, not matching the vibe of the Mu family's young master at all. A guy around the same age skipped right over to Mu Qiaoxian's side, his gaze scanning me up and down, looking extremely impolite, with a tone full of unmasked contempt. Pei Shuiru's face instantly darkened. Mu Qiaoxian quickly pulled her son back, scolding him in a half-hearted soft voice. Watch your mouth. How can you say that? Using an even more critical and disgusted gaze, I carefully scanned him up and down. You, on the other hand, grew up by your parents' side, clothed in silk and fed on delicacies. But looking at your manners, it seems you're actually worse than me. The expressions of Mu Qiaoxian and her son completely changed. Meng Sijie's face flushed red with pure rage. He absolutely didn't expect me to play so outside the box. Usually wouldn't regular people just bottle it up when facing this? How dare he talk back right in public? Pei Shuiru was secretly thrilled deep down, yet on the surface she mimicked Mu Qiaoxian's previous tone. You child, how can you say that? With a blank face, I calmly replied, I'm just copying him. I thought young masters in the capital all talk like this. Mu Yue was on the side trying her absolute best to suppress her laughter. Before she was always the one getting heavily roasted by me, but today it finally switched to someone else. Seeing me treat him without holding back a single word, why on earth was she so happy? Although this older cousin was on great terms with Xuan, she just really disliked him. Ah Xuan was also a young master of the Mu family, possessing a precious status and pampered in every way. Yet even he was never this arrogant and unreasonable. Plus this guy was incredibly selfish, acting like the whole world revolved around him. During family gatherings when they were kids, Meng Sijie didn't dare to annoy the oldest sister too much. But it was a completely different story for the others. They were all forced to become his playthings and had to give in to him no matter what. If they didn't listen to him, he would throw a huge tantrum, and whenever he caused trouble, he would pin it on the sisters, making them take the blame for so many things. Now that he's grown up, he's learned to play the victim, making them utterly sick of seeing him. Now someone finally managed to put him in his place. Pai Shuaro glared at her second daughter, signaling her to wipe that smirk off her face and not go too far. Turning around, she looked at Mu Xiaoshuan apologetically. Sister, I'm so sorry. Chen is good in every way, he's just too blunt. Please don't take it to heart. After saying that, she turned back to give me a firm reminder. Young masters in this capital, of course, have great manners. Your cousin was just joking earlier. You mustn't be petty and take it seriously. Hearing this, Mu Xiaoshuan was absolutely seething with anger. What did she mean? If her son took it seriously, that would make him petty, right? Meng Sijie had never encountered this kind of situation before. He stomped his foot and ran off in an unhappy huff. Taking advantage of when no one was paying attention, Mu Yuwei lowered her voice and praised me for doing a great job. We absolutely cannot keep spoiling him. I gave her a flat glance. I'm not his parents, so of course I won't spoil him. That actually makes a ton of sense. Why didn't she think like this when she was being oppressed before? Aside from the oldest aunt's family whom I hadn't met, the other members of the Mu main family had been seen at the gathering. Though I didn't have much contact with the cousins, it was basically just a round of introducing everyone to each other. Lu Manqi and Mu Mingyuan had 3 sons. The second and youngest sons were close in age to us, while the eldest son was already married, having wed a daughter from a wealthy elite family in the capital. Xiaoshen and Xie Fusheng only had 1 child, and that was Meng Sijie. With everyone gathered together, there were quite a lot of people making it look incredibly lively. The smile on old Mrs. Mu's face never faded. Xuan, how did you lose so much weight? Old Mrs. Mu pulled Mu Xuan to her side to look him over, her brows furrowing deeply. Mu Xian touched his face and was just about to deny it, when old Mrs. Mu turned toward Pei Shuaro and began to criticize her with deep dissatisfaction. Even though Xuan's background was mistaken, he has still been raised in the Mu family for so many years. You can't mistreat him just because of a bloodline. Pei Shuaro's face instantly turned sour. What did she mean by they were mistreating him? When on earth did they ever mistreat Xuan? Seeing Pei Shuaro's expression change, Mu Xuan hurriedly spoke up to explain, Grandma, no. Dad and Mom treat me very well. I just caught a cold and had a fever a few days ago. I wasn't careful during winter and fell ill. Dad and Mom really treat me well. Grandma, you absolutely must not misunderstand. If Mu Xuan had said these words naturally like before, in a spoiled whining tone, old Mrs. Mu would have definitely believed him. But because of the incident with Wen Yimo, he had a massive knot tightly tangled in his heart, feeling that his parents must be thoroughly disappointed in him. So he had become somewhat walking on eggshells. Hurrying to explain was originally meant well, but in the eyes of onlookers, it turned into something else, making things look even worse the more he tried to fix it. Old Mrs. Mu held Mu Xuan's hand. Xuan, don't overthink things either. You will always be a young master of my Mu family. I'll leave my words right here. If anyone dares to make things difficult for you in the future, just give your grandma a call. Grandma will stand up for you. As she spoke, she even threw a very pointed glance at me. Although I noticed it, I was completely unfazed by it. I didn't think it was strange at all. Even though Mu Xuan wasn't a biological child of the Mu family, he had been raised here for over a decade after all. The affection built over so many years wasn't fake. Once an emotional investment gets reciprocated, it's impossible to take it back overnight. Bloodlines are very important, but affection accumulated day by day is also crucial. I still stood by my old words. As long as Mu Xuan doesn't come to provoke me, I have absolutely no interest in causing destruction. As for petty jealousy, what on earth even is that? What are you saying? Who's making things difficult for Xuan? Xuan was indeed sick a while back, and it dragged on for a few days, so he hasn't had time to fully recover yet. Father Mu was quite dissatisfied with his mother's words. To put it bluntly, his words were targeted at Chen. If they were really going to mistreat Xuan, then why would they keep him around? To bring trouble upon themselves. Mu Xian looked pleadingly at old Mrs. Mu. Grandma, Mom, and Dad really treat me well. Don't blame them. He should already be grateful that he could stay. Who told him not to be the actual young master? All right. Don't get anxious. Your grandma is just too concerned about you. Your grandma talks about you all day long. If school wasn't about to start soon, she'd want you to stay over for a while longer. Seeing that the atmosphere was about to be ruined, Lu Manqi hurriedly spoke up to diffuse the awkwardness. Old Mrs. Mu didn't hold on to it either. Stroking Mu Xuan's head, her gaze filled with deep affection. Next year, you'll take the college entrance exam, aim for Capital University, so you can stay over with the Mu family in the process. Mu Xian subconsciously looked toward Pei Shuaro, as if consulting her for her opinion. Pei Shuaro's brows knit slightly. Regarding the college entrance exam choices, hadn't the family already discussed it long ago? It all depended on what Xuan liked himself. Instead, she just went along with the old lady's words. Your grandma is right. Applying to Capital University makes it easier to look after you. Muxian felt a brief flash of joy at first, but then a wave of doubt couldn't help but creep into his heart. Is mom really disappointed in him? Does she not like him anymore? Thinking about letting him apply to Capital University so he would be far away from home, and he wouldn't have to show up at home very often. His mood immediately plummeted. Yet he didn't dare to show anything on his face, able only to force a smile. Luckily, he lowered his head, otherwise everyone would have wondered what was up. Father Mu's family stayed in the capital for 2 days, and Pei Shuero thought about taking me out to look around. After all, I had never been to the capital before. The capital had tons of fun things to do and great food. The most common thing during the new year was visiting temples, which most people in the capital would do. Plus there was a grand temple fair, which was bound to be incredibly lively. By the third day, Mu Mingyuan also got interested, calling his own family over, saying it was a rare reunion, so they might as well all go together. The more people the merrier, so the huge family set off in 2 business vans. Don't know what Meng Sijie was thinking, but he also tagged along for the fun, dragging Mu Xuan to sit in the eldest uncle's car, and kicking out Mu Mingyuan's youngest son. Mu Rouge had a somewhat simple and honest mouth, unable to say smooth, sweet words. She could be seen as a down-to-earth girl. Having played with Mu Yue since childhood, the two had a great relationship. As they chatted away, I threw them a meaningful look. Birds of a feather really do flock together. Mu Yue is a goofball herself, so she gets along great with Ru Shui, who is just as goofy. Mu Yue noticed my gaze, and gave me a bewildered glare. What on earth does he want to do now? It's the new year, please don't get her scolded again. I quickly withdrew my gaze. The group headed to the most prestigious temple in the capital. This temple had over 300 years of history. Though it went through dynastic changes and the baptism of war, it luckily managed to survive and was preserved exceptionally well. The Buddha statue in the main hall had sat firmly for over 300 years, gazing at the world's vanity with compassionate eyes as always. I stepped into the main hall without any psychological burden, kneeling down on the cushion along with the crowd, closing my eyes and muttering a prayer in my heart, hoping I can quickly gather enough merit to return to the city of the dead and reopen the gate of rebirth. After praying for a moment, I finally opened my eyes, meeting the compassionate eyes of the Buddha statue. I paused. Why did it feel like the Buddha statue's gaze was somewhat off? I wondered if I was just feeling guilty, so looking at the Buddha statue just felt off. I stared at the Buddha statue without blinking, trying to confirm if it was just my own issue. Ah Chen, you shouldn't stare at the Buddha like that. It's disrespectful. After Pei Shuero finished praying, she noticed her son was kneeling perfectly straight, but his eyes were being way too bold, staring right at the Buddha statue in front of him. I withdrew my gaze. Mom, don't you think its eyes look strange? Pei Shuero took a casual glance and quickly looked away, smiling as she said, "What are you thinking, child? All Buddha statues look like this, there's nothing strange about it. This statue in the main hall has a history of over 300 years. It was sculpted right when the temple was built, and it has never changed. How could there be anything strange about it?" Thinking about how her son grew up in a Taoist temple, Pei Shuero gently comforted me. Although there are more temples around now, there are still Taoist temples. I'll find time to take you to a Taoist temple to pray. If I weren't the prince of the city of the dead, I would have been totally spooked by that suggestion. Even though I'm not a ghost, I'm still a member of the underworld after all, so I'm naturally not on the same path as Buddhas and immortals. I'd better visit these kinds of places less in the future. After all, we don't belong to the same crowd. Before getting up, I couldn't help but take another look, still feeling like the expression in its eyes was off. At first glance, it seemed very compassionate, but looking closer, it gave off a sinister, eerie vibe. It didn't look righteous at all. Instead, it felt like, after stepping out of the hall, I put away my doubts. Maybe I really was being paranoid. This temple statue has been passed down for over 300 years, and has received countless offerings of incense. Even if there were an issue, it should have been purified by the incense long ago. Pei Shuero had been to this temple a few times, and the scenery was indeed very beautiful. It had snowed heavily in the capital before the new year, and the temperature had been low these past few days, so the snow hadn't melted yet. It was perfect for heading up the mountain to enjoy the snow. Hearing that there was snow scenery to see, I got quite interested. I really had never seen snow before. Well, at least I shouldn't have seen it. I can't remember how long I stayed in the city of the dead, and before going there, I probably hadn't seen it either. Otherwise, why wouldn't I have a single shred of memory? Pei Shuero watched me walking ahead, skipping and hopping along slightly, completely shedding my usual mature and steady demeanor at home. Only now did I look like a young boy. Watching her lively son, a tender smile curled up on the corners of her mouth, her eyes filled with absolute affection. Deep down, she still felt a bit of regret for missing out on her son's upbringing. The Mu sisters found it quite novel to watch. They had thought this younger brother had a rigid, old-fashioned personality, but it turned out he really was still just a kid. As for why he was more steady than an adult, there was no need to overthink it. A wave of sibling affection surged in Mu Yue's heart, and she thought to herself that she should give in to him more in the future. Oh well, who told her to be the fourth older sister? As they walked, Mu Yue felt a sudden urge to play. She bent down, scooped up a handful of snow, rolled it into a snowball, and threw it right at me ahead. The snow hit me perfectly. I stopped in my tracks, keeping my face deadpan as I turned around. The three Mu sisters immediately pointed at each other, indicating that they were innocent. I looked at Mu Yue and narrowed my eyes. You've got some nerve, daring to throw snow at me. Seeing me look over, Mu Yue even mockingly patted the snow. I stared at her for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled, revealing my pearly white teeth. I was wearing a white beanie on my head, with two fluffy pom-poms dangling down, and the brim had a ring of cute decorations. With me smiling like this, my little face looked kind of chubby, giving off the exact vibe of a grinning little kitten. The sisters felt their hearts instantly get struck by a wave of pure cuteness, giving them an urge to rush up and squeeze my face. So their little brother was actually this adorable compared to his usual mature self. This was probably what they call gap mo, but I wouldn't let a smile ruin my badass image. From then on, in the hearts of the four older sisters, this gap moe left a super deep impression. Mu Yue was also completely dazed, scratching her head, thinking he actually looked cuter than Ashuan. As she was thinking this, a chunk of white snow flew right at her face. Reacting quickly, she dodged in a flash. Yet, she couldn't completely avoid it, and the snow smacked right into her face. She froze on the spot, having honestly thought she could dodge it. With my hands on my hips, I smiled triumphantly. You threw it first, and now you want to dodge? Keep dreaming. Peishero stood by the side, pumping her fist, hardcore praising her son. Ah Chen, nice shot, spectacular. Your fourth sister is just asking for a beating. Pelt her good. As long as you don't kill her, it's fine. Mom, am I even your daughter? Mu Yue cried out, completely breaking down. Peishero gave her a disgusted look. I honestly wish you weren't my daughter, but unfortunately, you look way too much like me. You probably weren't swapped at birth. Mu Yue felt like her heart was pierced, weeping inside. Aren't you afraid my brother will actually hurt me? She asked, refusing to give up. Peishero waved her hand dismissively. That would only prove you're useless. What's the big deal about getting hit by snow a few times? Could it actually injure you? If you really get hurt, it just proves you're a total weakling. You'll be a laughingstock in the future. While they were talking, I rolled up another snowball and pelted it at her. I had wanted to teach Mu Yue a lesson for a long time. She only grows in height, but not in brains, getting easily manipulated by just a few words from others. Who knows what kind of mess she'll get used for in the future. Usually I'm too lazy to even care about her. But since she practically walked right into me today, I won't hold back. Time to give her a good beating first. And so Mu Yue and I started fighting. At first she thought that with her taller build, how could she possibly lose a snowball fight to a young boy? She wanted to take this chance to vent her frustration. But who would have guessed? Reality was brutal. She got completely nerfed and dominated by me. In the end, I pelted her so hard she was running around covering her head. Worse yet, her three heartless older sisters were just busy watching the drama from the side. And not a single soul came to give her a hand. Out of a family of 8, honestly, she must be the one who was adopted, right? What are you guys doing? The fooling around Mu Yue and I instantly stopped. Mu Yue secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This was way too embarrassing. Actually losing a snowball fight to her younger brother. It was Mu Xuan and Meng Xijie. Everyone had come together. But after praying, they had split up. Meng Xijie insisted on dragging Mu Xuan along. So Mu Xuan just went with him. And now they bumped into each other. Seeing Mu Yue looking like a total hot mess. Her perfectly fine clothes covered in dirty snow, and her hair full of snow like a bird's nest. Then looking back at how clean I was, Mu Shen said with some dissatisfaction, Ah Chen, how could you pelt fourth sister into such a state? Hearing this, Mu Yue knew things were turning sour, hurriedly trying to explain before I could speak. But I didn't give her the time at all. If she hadn't started it, I would have pelted her even harder. Besides, she's the one who threw at me first. She only threw once, and as a result, I completely schooled her like a noob. Mu Shen choked on his words, opening his mouth, and stammered, even so, you shouldn't have pelted her like this. Mu Yue quickly spoke up to smooth things over. Ah Xuan, I'm fine. We were just having a snowball fight. It doesn't hurt at all. It's just that my clothes got a bit dirty, that's all. Not wanting to let Mu Xuan ruin the mood, I tossed the snowball in my hand aside, clapped my hands clean, snorted, and walked over to Peishuero's side. Mom, let's keep going. Peishuero smiled and nodded, then looked toward Mu Xuan and Meng Xijie. Since we ran into each other, let's go together. There are too many people during the new year, so accidents can happen easily. Although she was worried the two might cause a scene, her gaze lingered on Mu Xuan. I had once done a favor for the Grandmaster, and he had promised me one thing in return. I never thought about cashing in that promise before, but now he had no choice but to do so. He had to save his eldest grandson. Peishuero's group strolled around the temple the whole way, and they left smoothly without any incidents. The couple finally put their hearts back in their chests, staying in the capital for 2 days before setting off back to Haishi. Father Mu got busy with the arrangements for my schooling. After thinking back and forth, the couple decided to send me to the exact same school as Mu Xuan. Although the relationship between the two of us was pretty average, no matter what, being in the same school and the same class meant they could look after each other to some extent. When the couple was thinking about this point, they actually didn't have a shred of confidence deep down. With Ah-chen's exact personality, expecting him to look after Mushuan was simply impossible. But in the end, they still decided to go with this, holding onto a tiny sliver of a beautiful wish that maybe things wouldn't turn out as badly as they thought. I had been taking makeup classes non-stop during this winter break. The Mu sisters gave me tutoring sessions, and they also hired private tutors to come to the house. At first, everyone couldn't quite figure out the situation, wondering what exactly I had learned before. But very quickly, everything became crystal clear. Although I hadn't attended school systematically, the Taoist priestess who adopted me had taught me a lot. My own ability to absorb knowledge was excellent, so I learned incredibly fast. Father Mu and Pei Shuero were pleasantly surprised, and at the same time, they felt immensely relieved. Thankfully, that priestess was an educated person who had taught Ah-chen a ton of knowledge. Otherwise, he really might have turned out like an illiterate. Very soon, the day for the start of the school term arrived. Father Mu delayed his work schedule to personally drive his son to school. In the car were the worried Pei Shuero and Mu Yue, who represented the four sisters. In the car, Pei Shuero nagged nonstop. I didn't show any signs of impatience, but Mu Yue, on the other hand, got calluses on her ears from listening. Mom, that's enough already. He's just going to school, that's all. You're acting like he's going to do something dangerous. Mu Yue rolled her eyes. Besides, he's not boarding at school. He'll be coming home every single day. What could possibly happen? Pei Shuero glared at her fiercely. If you don't know anything, just shut your mouth. An incident just happened at this school not long ago. If it weren't for the fact that Ashuan has always been studying here, and seeing that it's already the final semester, I would absolutely never let Ah-chen come here to study. Thinking about that accidental incident, a wave of discomfort surged in Pei Shuero's heart. After all, Mushuan was also involved in that. She deliberately wanted to say a few words about it, but seeing the silent Mushuan beside her, she couldn't help but swallow her words back down. Forget it, she believed he knew he was completely wrong, and wouldn't dare do such foolish things again in the future. If she kept holding onto it and refusing to let go, he would just get sensitive and overthink things again. Mom, don't worry about it. I won't let anyone bully me. I knew exactly what she was worrying about. Never mind that I'm the young master of the Mu family. Even if I were just an ordinary person, if anyone dared to bully me, I would pay them back 100-fold. Wicked people all bully the weak and fear the strong. As long as you are more wicked than them, they will turn around and fear you instead. Father Mu and Pei Shuero dropped me off at the school gate, unable to go inside any further. Usually the school didn't allow parents to enter, only allowing drop-offs and pickups at the school gate. Watching me and Mushuan walk inside, Pei Shuero was still somewhat worried. Father Mu wrapped his arm around her shoulder and comforted her. Don't worry. Ah-chen is a smart kid. Nothing will happen to him. Besides, he's not the type to take things lying down. Pei Shuero gave him a flat look, too lazy to explain too much to him. It was precisely because of that blunt personality that she was even more worried. What if a conflict or dispute arose? Stepping into the school, my eyes couldn't hide my curiosity as I carefully sized up the school all around. Kids in this era are truly fortunate. Even boys and girls can enter the schoolhouse together, needing only to pay a tiny bit of money. Such a spacious and bright place, such a flat and clean ground. They don't have to fear the blazing heat in summer, and they don't have to dread the bitter cold in winter. Unlike the children of the past, only the children of the upper-class nobility would have a slightly better environment in their schoolhouses. For commoner children, wanting to study was extremely difficult. Why would I think this way? Could it be that I have actually witnessed this before? I experienced a brief moment of confusion. Since I couldn't find any matching memory in my mind, I just assumed I had heard ghosts talk about it before. Musa noticed my amazement, and how I was sizing everything up. He couldn't help but feel incredibly contemptuous inside. Lowering his eyes to hide his disdain for Ah-chen, he asked, "Do you know how to get to your classroom? Do you need me to lead the way?" Mushuan asked, standing in front of the teaching building. I gave him a cold glance. No need. Mushuan smiled slightly. Then go by yourself. Your classroom is just upstairs. It's very easy to find. If you can't find it, just ask a teacher. Mushuan was relieved that the timing of my return happened right before the winter break, saving him from the strange looks of those around him. Thinking of this, Mushuan exhaled a sigh of relief, turned around and walked off in one direction. As for me, I walked in the opposite direction. Standing at the back door of Class F's classroom, I looked up. After confirming I hadn't gone wrong, I fell into a brief silence. No wonder my father's expression was so complex and unspeakable. When he heard that I wanted to come to Class F, "You must be the new student, right? Your name is Mu-chen, correct?" The homeroom teacher of Class F rushed over. Seeing a boy standing at the back door, he paused and remembered the arrangement. I turned around in a flash, staring at the teacher to size him up carefully. Once I confirmed his identity, I bowed properly. "Hello, teacher." The teacher was stunned for a moment by my gesture. Is he really this formal? He actually bowed to him. "Student Mu-chen, I'm your homeroom teacher. My last name is Liu, and everyone calls me Da Liu. You can call me that too. If you run into any trouble in the future, just come find me. I shook my head gently, saying deadpan and seriously, "You are the teacher, so you should be respected. How can I call you by a nickname like Da Liu? Respecting teachers and honoring their teachings is a basic quality." Da Liu was suddenly a little moved. In all his years of being a teacher, this was the first time his soul had been shaken like this. However, this emotional moment was fleeting. Da Liu quickly recovered his composure. "Class is about to start. Come inside with me." Da Liu walked quickly into the classroom, but the students completely ignored him. They just kept doing whatever they were doing. It was noisy and chaotic, but Da Liu was clearly used to it. "Everyone quiet down, class is starting. First, let me introduce a new classmate." Da Liu shouted at the top of his lungs. The noise in the classroom paused, and everyone's gaze fell upon us one after another, sizing me up as I stood on the podium. "Oh wow, a new transfer student at this time. This is quite surprising. This handsome guy looks pretty good, huh? He's a total hottie." Listening to the chatter from below, Da Liu felt a wave of awkwardness on his face. He cleared his throat and said gently to me, "Student Mu Chen, please introduce yourself first." I nodded, looking at the crowd below with a calm expression. "I am Mu Chen. Student Mu, is that it?" I gave him a bewildered glance. Otherwise, what else am I supposed to say? This self-introduction was truly simple. After introducing myself, the next step was to arrange a seat. Da Liu was still scanning the room to see where it would be best for me to sit. I took a look around the place myself and walked straight toward a certain spot. Seeing me take a seat at that particular spot, Da Liu and the classmates opened their mouths wide, looking completely dumbfounded. Aside from being dumbfounded, the classmates seemed to hold a trace of malicious intent, waiting to watch a good drama unfold. "Who allowed you to sit here?" I turned my head to look at my new deskmate. "Can't I sit here?" "No, I don't want to sit with anyone else," Lu Quping said with a dark face. If it weren't for the fact that this kid was a guy, he would have kicked him away a long time ago. "Who gave him the balls to sit next to him?" I withdrew my gaze and said flatly, "Oh, then you can change your seat." Lu Quping and the classmates were all completely dumbfounded. After snapping back to reality, he laughed out of sheer anger. He pointed a finger at himself. "Do you even know who I am?" "No, I don't." He hadn't even introduced himself, so how was I supposed to know who he was? "You don't know who I am, yet you dare talk to me like that. Don't think I won't beat you up just because you're a guy." I finally bothered to spare him a glance. "If you want to fight, let's take it outside right now. Otherwise, I'll completely school you." I thought about it for a second and said in total seriousness, "Then let's have a fight. Let's duke it out. If I win, you listen to me from now on. If I lose, I'll listen to you, Gil." The classroom instantly fell into a shocked silence, and then everyone burst out laughing. "Oh my gosh, this is killing me. He actually said he wants to fight Lu Quping? He clearly doesn't know how OP our sister Ping is. Sister Ping, give him a proper lesson." Lu Quping curled his lip in disdain. "I never fight guys. You wouldn't even last against one of my fingers." I gave a faint smile. "I think you're just too scared to fight me. You're afraid of losing, like a cat getting its tail stepped on." Lu Quping instantly jumped up from his seat. "Me lose? What an absolute joke. Since you don't know your place, then I'll gladly grant your wish." Originally seeing how good-looking he was planning to be generous and overlook the sitting issue. Who knew this kid would reject his kindness? His gaze toward me was filled with absolute disgust, firmly believing I was just like those guys who tried to hit on him. "Then it's a deal." I calmly laid out my textbooks, sitting perfectly upright and proper, signaling that it was time for class to start. "Ah, Xuan, why didn't that brother of yours come with you? Did your parents not let him be in the same class?" Right after Mu Xuan returned to his seat in Class A, his usual inner circle immediately crowded around to ask. Mu Xuan pursed his lips. He answered in a small voice, "Ah Chen went to Class F?" "He actually went to Class F? Does that mean his grades are completely trash? Didn't you say your parents dote on him a lot? How could they let him go to Class F? Class F is literally just for slacking off. They are all just waiting to go abroad after the college entrance exam. Most of them are younger sons or those who aren't favored, who don't need to worry about inheriting the family business in the future. They just need to collect their allowance and kill time. No one cares about grades at all and no one pays attention. As long as they don't cause trouble at school, everything else is completely ignored." The Mu family letting him go to Class F makes it seem like they don't actually dote on him that much, huh? Exactly. Even though he's the biological son, he lived outside for over 10 years. Who knows what kind of person he turned into? How can he compare to Ah Xuan, who was meticulously raised? Looks like Ah Xuan is still the true young master of the Mu family. Mu Shan showed a look of hesitation on his face. "It's just that Ah Chen didn't do well on the placement test. He left some details out. At first, Father Mu wanted to use his connections to pull me into Class A, but I decisively rejected it myself. Father Mu is a total doting madman, so of course he would enforce his son. That's exactly why I ended up in Class F." Mu Shen's friend curled his lip. "He could only get into Class F. That really is pretty pathetic. Ah Xuan is the rank 1 in Class A. This gap is way too massive." Mu Shen continued to speak up and defend me. "Don't blame Ah Chen. He used to live in a Taoist temple and has never even been to a regular school before. Being able to get into class F is already very good. As long as he studies hard, he can still transfer to other classes. It's already the second half of the school year, what's the point of transferring? Once the college entrance exam is over, it'll be time to change schools anyway. You said he lived in a Taoist temple. For real. Hearing this juicy gossip, even more classmates crowded around to get the tea. There's nothing much to say about it. Class is about to start. Hurry back to your seats and sit down. Muxuan nudged the classmates beside him, urging them to go back to their seats. But the more he refused to give the full details, the more curious everyone became deep down. They could only secretly make their own wild guesses. Muxuan sat at his own desk, lowering his eyes as he flipped open his textbook. He was as quiet and well-behaved as always, except he suddenly turned his head to look at a seat. A familiar face should have been sitting there, but right now, that seat was completely empty. The person who used to sit there was gone. Thinking of Zhang Yan, his eyes darkened a bit. His gaze casually swept past a certain spot, then recoiled as if stung by a needle, not daring to take another single glance. That was Wen Yimo's seat. After the incident, everything had changed. Usually the various classes lived in peace, not interfering with one another. They all found each other unpleasant to look at. Class F was at the bottom of the school hierarchy, and the further up a class was, the more disdainful they were. They barely interacted, but today was different. Right after class ended, a classmate from Class A ran back inside at lightning speed, shouting excitedly, "Huge news, massive news. The slackers in Class F are about to fight. Are you out of your mind? What's so rare about Class F fighting? It'd be rare if they actually didn't fight for a day." No, wait. The classmate who ran back stamped his feet, casting a deeply meaningful look toward Muxuan. Muxuan was left completely baffled by the look. The classmate deliberately played mysterious. "Do you know who's fighting Lu Chuping?" His eyes landed on Muxuan once again. With such a glaring hint, there was no way the people around could ignore it. Muxuan's expression was about to completely freeze up. Everyone looked at one another, and a male classmate, who had a good relationship with him, asked, "Are you saying Xuan's brother is the one fighting Lu Chuping?" "No way, right? Who is Lu Chuping?" Forget about just the seniors. In the entire school, she is a figure known by absolutely everyone. She has been a legendary figure since middle school, though strictly in a derogatory sense. Exactly, it's Mu Chen. This came straight from the mouths of the Class F students, and they said Mu Chen was the one who actively provoked her, telling her to meet him in the woods after school. The classmate half-jokingly looked at Muxuan. "Student Muxuan, this brother of yours really has some guts. To actually dare challenge Lu Chuping, has he trained in martial arts or something? He must be super OP, right?" Confirming that his classmate wasn't joking, Muxuan stood up in a flash and walked out, feeling both angry and anxious inside. Is Mu Chen completely insane? How does he dare to provoke just about anyone? Does he think the school is the Mu family, where everyone will just give in to him and let him do whatever the hell he wants? He went storming off to Class F to look for Mu Chen, but halfway there he stopped in his tracks. He bit his lip hard, clenching his fist tightly, his eyes flickering with uncertainty. If he stopped it, that would obviously be great, as it would prevent a scene and stop his parents from blaming him. But if he didn't stop him, and he actually ended up fighting Lu Chuping, no matter what, he would bring disaster upon himself. He hadn't interacted much with Lu Chuping, but he had heard plenty of rumors about her. Knowing the Lu family was no ordinary household, Mu Chen had seriously messed with the wrong person. He gritted his teeth and turned back around. "Forget it, I don't care anymore. Even if I go to persuade him, he won't listen anyway. He might even say nasty things to me, and make me lose face along with him. Didn't they say the fight is after school? I'll just go try to talk him out of it after school. If he doesn't listen, I'll just call eldest sister. And then mom and dad won't blame him either." Class F's hype levels were through the roof all morning. Da Liu had overheard the conversation between the two, but he didn't take it seriously at all. After class, he just gave a few words of warning, telling Cuping not to lower herself to a boy's level, and to show some grace before leaving right after. He had some understanding of Lu Chiuping, and figured she wouldn't take her anger out on a new student. But he didn't expect that I wasn't some soft target either. So the moment school let out, the massive crowd from Class F escorted us all the way to the little woods behind the school. I glanced at the classmates who followed us, then my gaze landed on Lu Chuping. I wondered if I should give her a fair warning and tell the bystander students to leave first. Otherwise, she might lose a massive amount of face in a moment. It's human nature to want to save face. This kind of thing used to happen all the time in the Princess City. Those who lost would cry and wail, asking me to uphold justice. But how was I supposed to uphold justice for that? If your skills are inferior, you just have to accept defeat. Later on, no one dared to bother me with such trivial matters. I was managing things on behalf of my sister, and with so many affairs to handle, how could I have time for such petty squabbles? Lu Cuping felt like there was something wrong with the way I was looking at her, but she didn't have any proof. How do you want to fight? Since we haven't started yet, as long as you genuinely admit your mistake, we can just call it a day? I'll be generous and not hold it against you, Lu Cuping said arrogantly. Fighting a boy was honestly pretty embarrassing. Even if she won, she would probably be mocked for it. But just letting it go wouldn't work either. Where would she put her pride? So he absolutely had to apologize and admit his mistake. Fight however you're best at fighting. Cut the crap. And let's get started. I still need to go home early. The Mu family's driver is probably already here. Lu Qiuping was so angry she started laughing instead. Fine, since someone is practically begging for a beating, there's no need for her to be too polite. It was a rare moment where she tried to be a gentleman, yet the other party didn't appreciate it at all. Muxuan left the moment class ended. His classmates thought he went to stop the fight, and he did indeed go toward the little woods. But after taking a look from a distance, he turned around and left, heading straight toward the school gate. Once he reached the school gate, he quickly spotted the Mu family's car. The person stepping out from the driver's seat was eldest sister Mu Wanting. His eyes lit up and he walked over quickly. Speaking up in a rushed and anxious tone, "Eldest sister, you came at the perfect time. Ah Chen is about to get into a fight with someone. Hurry up and go stop him." Mu Wanting was completely stunned, almost thinking she had misheard. "A fight? You're saying Ah Chen is going to fight someone?" Mu Xian had a face full of anxiety and worry. I don't know why, but right after arriving at school, he got into a conflict with the class rebel and challenged them to a fight in the woods after school. I couldn't talk him out of it at all. "Eldest sister, hurry up and go. What if he gets beaten up if you're late?" Hearing this, Mu Wanting got anxious too. Without pausing to ask more, she walked toward the school. The security guard wanted to stop her, but she pulled her status and said something had happened to a child in her family, so the security guard didn't dare block her further and just let her right in. Muxuan anxiously led his eldest sister toward the woods, his performance flawless, though a hint of anticipation occasionally flashed deep in his eyes. Mu Wanting was only worried about her younger brother, so she didn't notice. But when the two rushed into the woods, the scene completely stunned them both, and they instantly fell into a dead silence. Especially Mu Wanting. She was now seriously questioning her reality. She had thought she would see her brother being bullied. "How did you get into the school?" "It's getting late. Let's go home." It took Mu Wanting a long while to snap out of it. Seeing that I had already walked several meters away, she hurriedly chased after me. It wasn't until we got back into the car that she finally found her sanity and her voice. Her gaze was incredibly complex, looking at me with an unspeakable expression. I looked at her and said honestly, "Oh, I just had a fight with someone. I won. There's no need to tell mom and dad about this little thing, so they won't worry." "What do you think?" She thought this was completely wrong. How could he get into a fight with someone? And more importantly, why on earth did he win? "Have you trained before?" Except for this reason. She couldn't think of any other explanation. "Well, of course I've trained before, and I'm actually pretty OP. Back in Princess City. Aside from my sister, I was the strongest." Mu Wanting looked at me and fell into a silence. At this moment, Mu Xuan finally caught up. He opened the car door and got into the back seat. He was panting a little, trying to catch his breath, when I threw a sentence right at him. "I don't want mom and dad to know about today's matter, so they won't worry." "What do you think?" Mu Xian met my cold eyes, and couldn't help but gasp for a moment. He subconsciously glanced at Mu Wanting, who was completely immersed in shock, not noticing his gaze at all, and offering zero reaction. Mu Xuan had no choice but to feel wronged and resentful, as he lowered his eyes. "I got it. I won't mention it to mom and dad." Ah Chen had never mentioned having trained before. On the way back, Mu Wanting couldn't help but ask, "You guys never asked?" I answered, completely confidently. Mu Wanting was instantly left speechless. Thinking back, a wave of guilt rose in her heart. After Ah Chen returned home, they hadn't shown him enough care, never actively asking to get to know him. They even worried about Mu Xuan feeling wronged, fearing that since Ah Chen was raised outside his nature would be too wild, that he wouldn't know how to be tactful or roundabout, nor would he know how to be considerate of his family, worrying that the family would be turned upside down. But he is her biological younger brother, a blood brother born from the same parents. They only knew he grew up in a Taoist temple, but never cared about how he grew up, or what kind of life he lived. In the months after the priestess passed away, how did he survive all by himself? Did he run into bad things? Which was why he learned self-defense skills. When they reached home, Pei Shuero immediately asked about today's school life as her top priority, inquiring very thoroughly. I answered without leaving a single flaw. How could she ever think her well-behaved son got into a fight? Hearing that everything was fine, she felt relieved. Mu Xuan wanted to expose this matter, but he didn't dare take that risk. In the end, he told himself to let it go. If he said it, Ah Chen probably wouldn't get punished, and he himself would end up looking bad. Why bother? Comforting himself this way made him feel a bit better. A guest might be coming to our house recently. Shiro, make the arrangements. At the dinner table, Father Mu remembered and said. Pei Shuero was somewhat surprised. A guest is coming to our house. How come she didn't know? At this, Father Mu slightly furrowed, his brow seemingly feeling a trace of confusion. It's the old madam of the Diwu family from the capital. What, the old madam of the Diwu family? Pei Shuero was truly shocked this time. They had always had zero interactions or contact. Why would the old madam come to visit? Father Mu thought for a bit and replied, it's not exactly a visit. The old madam is coming to Haishi for business and doesn't want to stay in a hotel. The Diwu family doesn't have any property here. So when eldest sister found out, she asked us to host her. Why is eldest sister acting like this? She didn't even ask us first. We don't even need to think to know what they're plotting. Although the Diwu family isn't top tier in the capital, and their name doesn't really rank high, that doesn't affect their status and influence. The Diwu family is neither in politics nor business. They rely on divination and deduction. This doesn't even count as just changing fate. Rumor has it, their ancestor deduced a major national disaster, turning the entire nation's destiny around, which led to the current empire. Because the ancestor leaked heaven's secrets, the Diwu family was heavily backlashed. Although it solidified their status and their reputation and power reached the peak, everything has its pros and cons. The nation's destiny was altered. How could a few lives even compare to that? From then on, the Diwu family's lineage withered. A massive clan was left with only 2 branches, having only 3 descendants in total, 2 males and 1 female. The direct line, in fact, has only 1 left. What's worse is that the golden child of the direct line met with some accident a few years ago. It's said he became a vegetable and could pass away at any moment. As their lineage withered, their abilities also declined. The direct line supposedly doesn't even know what the higher realm of divination is. For a great family to fall to such a state really makes people sigh with endless regret. But no one dares to look down on the Diwu family. That is a family protected by the higher-ups. The one lying in bed grew up in the president's residence. The supreme ruler loves him like his own son, putting all his effort into trying to cure him. He even went as far as promising a reward to whoever cures him. So even if the Diwu family is technically declining, their level is still completely out of everyone's reach. Besides, a ruined ship still has 3 tons of iron left. Eldest aunt wants to get some benefits from them. But what does that have to do with their family? The old madam is quite advanced in age. What if something happens to her while she's here? Who could possibly take responsibility for that? If they host her well, they might not even get any real perks, since they aren't even based in Haishi. It's honestly a thankless and troublesome task. The moment Father Mu looked at his wife's expression, he knew exactly what she was thinking. He didn't want to get involved either. He had separated from the family and left the capital, making his attitude crystal clear. He didn't have massive ambitions. His hard work was just to give his wife and kids a good life, so they wouldn't worry about food or clothes, have money to spend, and be happy. If his wife wants to be a rich lady and get beauty treatments, or go abroad for travel and watch fashion shows, she can. He gives his sons the best educational environment, but as a father, he can't manage their entire lives for them. If they lack ability in the future, they'll just live ordinary lives. He won't work himself to death as a slave for them forever. As for his son Ah Chen, he absolutely must take care of him for life. He suffered way too much in the first half of his life, so he must compensate him in the second half. He thought that getting close to the Diwu family would be a good thing. If they build a good relationship, they can arrange a good marriage for him in the future. In front of the kids, he couldn't just say, don't overthink it. Even if we agreed, she might not necessarily come. If we really get to host her, it'll be a good thing too. You can never go wrong with having more connections. Pei Shueru could only nod along. Since the capital side had already formed this idea, if they didn't agree, eldest aunt would just get the family matriarch to step in. The other Mu family kids showed various levels of interest, except for me, who didn't even lift an eyebrow, and just focused entirely on eating dinner, as if facing the ultimate gourmet feast. Seeing this, Father Mu felt deeply worried that Ah Chen had been raised to be way too innocent, not knowing whether that was a good or bad thing. If he can't find someone who genuinely loves him in the future, marrying into a wealthy family would get him eaten alive. Yet, marrying an ordinary person means he wouldn't want him to suffer either. He wanted his wife to teach him more in the future. Society is complex, so being too innocent is bad. While Father Mu's mind was filled with wild thoughts, I had already swallowed the last bite, satisfactorily finishing my dinner. I raised my eyes, meeting my old father's complex and intense gaze. I paused for a moment, wondering if I ate too much and made him worry. Did I eat until I'm totally stuffed? Surely he's not worried that I'll eat the family into bankruptcy, right? How could I possibly know he was actually stressing over my marriage? The next day, the moment I arrived at school and stepped into class F, the noisy classroom instantly felt like it was hit by a mute button. Everyone shut their mouths, seemingly busy with their own things, but occasionally stealing glances at me. Their looks were incredibly bizarre. I walked straight to my seat without looking sideways and sat down. To the side, Lu Qiuping asked with a dark face, "Why aren't you saying anything?" She was waiting for me to humiliate her, but after waiting and waiting, there was zero movement. I just took out my textbook and started studying. Only then could she not help but speak up, demanding to know what I meant by this. I gave her a puzzled glance. Lu Qiuping slammed the desk hard, stood up, and glared at me with pure rage. "Are you playing me?" The classroom fell into a terrifyingly quiet silence, and the surrounding space was instantly cleared out. I blinked innocently. "Oh, are you talking about yesterday's fight?" Didn't you lose? Right now I am your boss. How dare you act like this toward me? My brows furrowed deeply. I felt it was necessary to establish a proper threat. I got up from my seat, walked up to the podium, and swept my gaze across the entire class, my eyes cold and full of dominant pressure. From now on, I am the boss of Class F. If you're not convinced, feel free to challenge me. But from now on, you have to listen to me. Understood. Even though I had defeated Lu Chuping, the rest of Class F wasn't about to submit just because of that. I was just a newly transferred student, and a guy at that. What right did I have to be the boss? Even if Lu Chuping lost, there were still plenty of other people around. Making them listen to some weak-looking guy? Don't think you're all that just because you beat Sister Ping. Who knows if you just got lucky or used some underhanded dirty tricks. Newbie, don't get too arrogant. Exactly. We only recognize Sister Ping. I raised my eyebrows slightly. You recognize Lu Chuping? But Lu Chuping recognizing me is a totally different story. Is this Mu Chen out of his mind? I didn't waste my breath on the others, fixing my gaze directly on Lu Chuping. Do you accept yesterday's result or not? If you don't, there's nothing I can do about it. After all, when someone is completely shameless, they're invincible. There's really nothing I can do. What kind of green tea speech is this? She was so angry she burst out laughing, staring directly at me with a fierce glare. Gritting her teeth, she forced out 3 words, I accept it. A gentleman's revenge is a dish best served cold. She firmly believed yesterday was a fluke, and that he must have used some underhanded tricks to win. She didn't even have time to see what he did, before she ended up flat on the ground. She considered herself to have plenty of real combat experience, so how could she fail to last even a single round? This was absolutely impossible. I gave her a look full of absolute disdain. Do they think I actually want to be the boss? I don't want to be it at all. Is being the boss an easy job? To put it bluntly, you're just a nanny with 0 pay. Back in Prince's City, a nanny's life was just pure labor. I didn't expect to still have to do manual labor after coming to the human realm. But for the sake of merit points, what else could I do? Coming to Class F was an accident. The principal had already agreed to another class. But walking through the hallway, I noticed something was off. 2 masses of energy were hovering in the air. 1 black and 1 purple tiny energy wisps intersecting. The purple energy wisp was currently at a disadvantage, and would soon be suppressed by the black one. The presence of purple energy meant there was a person of noble destiny, but they were accompanied by a black sinister aura. The situation was looking pretty bad. My interest was instantly piqued. Helping a person of noble destiny remove sinister aura earns massive merit points. Upon learning that the classroom below was Class F, it meant the noble person was right here. Of course, I couldn't just let it go without investigating, which is why I chose to enroll in Class F. Lu Qiuping was exactly that lucky yet deeply unlucky noble person. Lu Qiuping, why are you staring at me? The Diwu family is really coming to our house. At the dinner table, this matter was brought up once again. It wasn't a discussion, but an announcement that the Diwu family members were arriving. Mu Roland and Mu Yakin felt that since there were elders around, it wasn't something they needed to stress over too much, so they were pretty chill about it. Mu Shun kept his eyes lowered, his mind spinning at lightning speed. I was the only one completely oblivious to the outside world, focusing entirely on stuffing my face with food. Peishuaru's mood became incredibly complex. With such an innocent personality, how will he manage in the future? He doesn't take such a massive matter to heart at all. His heart really is way too big. Ah Chen, what do you think about this? Peishuaru suddenly spoke up and asked. Right as I was enjoying the delicious food, I was stunned for a moment, blinking as I saw everyone staring at me, waiting to hear my thoughts. I had no choice but to stop my chopsticks and swallow my food. After thinking about it, since they want to come, we should just host them properly and treat them like ordinary guests. Hearing this, Mu Xuan couldn't help but argue back. That's the Diwu family. How can we just treat them like ordinary guests? There are plenty of places where they could be treated like VIPs. People capable of that could just go to a hotel and enjoy top-tier service. But they didn't do that. Instead, they wanted to come to our house. Why? They just don't want to be treated like some precious, fragile object. Not everyone wants to be put on a pedestal. Father Mu furrowed his brows, lost in thought. Soon his expression smoothed out, and he smiled. Ah Chen makes a lot of sense. The Diwu family aren't people who put on airs. Since they're coming to our house, showing proper etiquette should be more than enough. Being overly grand would just make us look sycophantic. Peishuaru also understood now. Ah Chen is absolutely right. The old madam is a very low-key person. People in the capital rarely see her show her face. She is someone who dislikes showing off, so treating her like an ordinary guest is perfect. Otherwise, what kind of luxury place could she not find? Father Mu pondered for a moment and said, then let's do exactly that. Honestly, he also found it pretty strange. Instead of staying with families they knew well, why did they think of coming to the Mu family? When he asked eldest sister in the capital, he got chewed out, saying he was letting a golden opportunity slip away to someone else. They would definitely grab the opportunity and exploit it fully. But he actually wanted to push it away. Why even try to get to the bottom of it? What plot could the Diwu family possibly have against them? Even if the Mu family gave themselves away for free, they wouldn't want them. He hung up the phone right then and there. The Diwoo family couldn't possibly have designs on them, so the Mu family should just take things as they come. As long as they don't offend the Diwoo family, it's fine. If eldest aunt wants to plot for benefits, she can do it herself. Hosting the old madam was officially settled. Seeing that they actually agreed, Mu Xuan didn't know what to say. If this wasn't fooling around, what was it? They are just letting him turn the family into a joke, gambling with their future and reputation. He wanted to say something, but swallowed his words back. Forget it. He would just figure something out after the Diwoo family members moved in. He made up his mind to look out for his own interests. I didn't take the incoming guest to heart at all. The old madam had nothing to do with me, and didn't need me to host her anyway. I might as well think about how to completely tame Lu Chuping. In the blink of an eye, I've been enrolled for over half a month, and I've adapted pretty well. I feel kids these days are way too fortunate. Even guys can enter the classroom, and as long as their learning capacity allows, they can keep studying. This is an extremely good thing, something they definitely never got to experience in the past. The Class F students watched as I took over as the boss by myself, yet I was focused and well-behaved in class without making any trouble, and diligently reviewed and did homework after class. Clearly I was a model student. We are Class F and we used to back Sister Ping. Are we really going to let things go on like this? He's trying to turn us into a top-tier class. Jiling Shuang screamed in a total mental breakdown. Mu Chen was getting more and more out of line. It was one thing for him to be a model student himself, but he was forcing them to be model students too. No fooling around to affect the lectures, no skipping classes, and no failing to turn in homework. What's wild is that he would actually do random spot checks, and anyone who couldn't answer would get punished, forced to study until they completely understood. He's not a student, he's the homeroom teacher, right? Even Dalio isn't as dedicated as him. Is he out of his mind? Thinking about this, Lu Quping's mouth twitched. At first he challenged and defeated her, suppressing all of Class F's resistance. She thought he was some badass who was going to do something world-shaking. Could it be that he's actually a legendary saintly student? Lu Quping was also extremely annoyed. She couldn't beat him in a fight, so what could she do? Recalling that bizarre incident, she was unwilling to accept that she couldn't beat a guy, but she wanted to reclaim her dominance while fearing the shame of losing. She had to ensure absolute success. Feeling that Mu Chen wasn't simple, let's put this matter aside for now. I need to go back to the capital for a bit. We'll talk when I get back. Lu Quping knit her brows and spoke irritably, her tone carrying a wave of pent-up rage. Jiling Shuang shrank back silently and didn't dare to speak anymore. Anyone familiar with Sister Ping knew that she was extremely resistant to the capital. Every time she went back to the capital, her mood would be terrible, filled with a depressing, violent aura, so no one dared to provoke her. Lai Qingqiu patted Sister Ping's shoulder. If anything's up, just tell us. Don't carry it alone. Jiling Shuang quickly chimed in. Sister Ping, we are sisters. Lu Quping let out a chuckle, glancing sideways at the two. Going back to the capital isn't like walking into a roaring fire. What's there to fear? The two exchanged looks and said nothing. They were afraid because of what happened when she went back to the capital the year before last. At that time that they didn't think much of it. But she came back having almost lost half her life, covered in wounds from head to toe. Underneath her clothes, not a single patch of skin was intact. She was red, swollen, and purple all over, as if her blood vessels could burst at any moment. It felt like she would shiver from just a gentle touch. It took her over a month of recovery to get better. Once healed, she returned to her familiar self, acting as if nothing had ever happened. When they tried to ask, she became strangely cold and detached, staring at people with a terrifying gaze. So they didn't dare to ask further. It had left a psychological scar on them, knowing that they cared about her. Lu Quping smiled, a hint of warmth in her eyes. All right, don't get all sappy. I can protect myself. I'm not a kid anymore. I know how to fight back. On the third day, I noticed Lu Quping wasn't around. I thought she just skipped class, but she ended up being absent. I gestured for Jiling Shuang to come over, waving my hand like calling a little puppy. She wanted to ignore it and pretend she didn't see, but she suddenly felt her entire body go cold, wrapped in a freezing aura, making her shiver. She reflexively looked over and saw me staring straight at her with a smile, though my eyes were completely cold. She couldn't help but shudder and felt it was better to walk over. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to handle the consequences, which definitely wouldn't be anything she'd want to see. What do you want? She asked, still acting tough and speaking in a harsh tone. Where is Lu Quping? She wanted to snap back, but meeting my dark eyes, she didn't dare. Sister Ping took a leave of absence and isn't coming. I propped up my chin, lost in thought. Taking a leave of absence, this is not looking good. Her luck is tanking, and there's a sign of impending disaster. Her soul is currently unstable, and the sinister aura has completely suppressed the purple energy. This is definitely not a good thing. Where did she go on her leave? What did she go to do? Hearing this interrogation, Jiling Shuang exploded. Why are you interrogating me like a criminal? Even if you self-proclaimed yourself as Class F's boss, you have no right to treat us like prisoners. I looked at Jiling Shuang with a bewildered face, honestly left speechless. On the third day, I was the one who took a leave of absence. The Mu family decided to treat the guests normally, though they still had to do some basic courtesy on the surface. With a big wave of Father Mu's hand, the whole family mobilized, taking leave to welcome the noble guest at home. I had no objections. If they asked me to take a leave, I took it. Little did I know Class F had completely turned upside down. As for Pu Lei, who mocked me yesterday, he completely threw my words out the window. He went to class, went home after school, and slept early as usual, in a pretty good mood. Then the unexpected happened. When he woke up, he wanted to find something and called out to someone, only to realize no sound came out. Thinking he wasn't fully awake, he strained his throat to shout, but his face changed. There was still no sound. Feeling like he was in a dream, he touched his throat and rushed out, opening his mouth in a silent scream. The Pooh family was instantly thrown into chaos. They didn't connect it to yesterday, assuming he was just sick. But the hospital checkup showed no problems at all. His vocal cords and organs were perfectly fine, yet he just couldn't speak, his mouth opening in complete silence. The doctor concluded it was a psychological issue. His life had been smooth sailing recently with no incidents, so the doctor suggested going home to rest and adjust his mindset, saying he might be fine in a few hours. While they listened to the doctor, Class F was completely buzzing. Pu Lei and a few others had met with an accident. Someone mysteriously lowered their voice, and Jiling Shuang, catching wind of it, asked what happened. Her classmates gathered around her, condensing all the juicy gossip. My house is close to the Pu family. Our maid was walking the dog and heard Pu Lei turn completely mute this morning. The people around doubted it. No way, right? How could he suddenly turn mute out of nowhere? We were just on a voice call last night and he was perfectly fine. It's true. The maids were gossiping. The hospital couldn't find any issue, saying it was caused by psychological reasons. Plus those few guys he hangs out with all took leave today for the exact same thing. The surrounding students looked at each other in stunned silence, not knowing whether to believe it or not. It was too bizarre and they didn't connect it to yesterday. Except for Jiling Shuang and Lai Tingqiu, whose heart skipped a beat. They instantly recalled what I said yesterday. I punish you to be unable to speak for 3 days. Jiling Shuang got a whole layer of goosebumps, feeling a chilly breeze. Qingqiu. Could this have something to do with Mu Chun? This really forces one to be suspicious. He just finished saying it yesterday and today they meet with an accident that matches the punishment perfectly. This is way too much of a coincidence. Lai Tingqiu furrowed her brows. Lai Tingqiu took a deep breath. Whether it's a coincidence or not, let's make sure never to mess with him in the future. This guy is truly deep and unpredictable. If he really did this, our end would probably be even worse. Jiling Shuang nodded her head frantically. She was thinking the exact same thing. Meanwhile, at the Mu family residence, the noble guests arrived. From that day on, the atmosphere in the class completely changed. No one dared to make a ruckus or fool around anymore. They all obediently listened to my words and read their books. I looked at all of this with deep satisfaction. As long as they stopped looking for trouble, I can't be bothered to use my special methods to deal with them. The following days passed by quite peacefully, but the online public opinion was getting more and more intense. When Yimo's parents brought forward all the evidence and handed it directly over to the police to handle. The police stepped in to investigate and gather evidence, and the truth of what happened at the mall back then was finally uncovered. Zhang Yan and several other students involved were all given major demerits by the school and ordered to be expelled. The matter could no longer be covered up at all. Mu Shenhua was also sitting on pins and needles at home, terrified out of his mind the entire day, and completely absent-minded. The Mu family watched the news reports, and knowing that Zhang Yan was actually involved in a homicide, they were all utterly shocked and horrified. Pei Shiro looked at Mu Xuan and spoke up to ask Xiao Xuan, "Tell mom honestly, did you participate in what Zhang Yan did?" Mu Xuan was so scared his face turned as pale as a sheet, and with a thud, he fell to his knees on the ground. "Mom, I really didn't participate in harming anyone. I was just standing by the side watching. I didn't dare to stop them back then. I really know I was wrong now." After Father Mu and the sisters finished listening, their eyes were filled with deep, intense disappointment. Even though he didn't directly push the person himself, standing by coldly as a bystander and enabling the cover-up is an equally unforgivable evil. Father Mu made his decision with a cold face. "The Mu family cannot keep a great Buddha like you. I will give you a sum of living expenses. You move out and live on your own. From now on, you're on your own." Mu Shen wept and begged everyone bitterly, but this time no one was soft-hearted enough to take his side. Even Mu Yue turned her head away. Although she usually wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, she could still distinguish between right and wrong when it mattered most. Mu Shen was ultimately sent out of the Mu family. Their family businesses were heavily boycotted, one after another going bankrupt or facing closure. This time they completely received their well-deserved karma. When Yimo looked at me in the room, her eyes no longer carrying any resentment. "Thank you for helping me claim justice. Seeing them get the punishment they deserve, I can finally leave in peace." I smiled and nodded. "Go on. Go into the cycle of reincarnation. In your next life, you will live a safe and smooth life." She turned into scattered points of starlight and dissipated. A stream of pure merit points surged into my body, and I felt my strength get buffed by quite a bit. Days finally returned to their usual peaceful state. I became the absolute anchor of Class F, leading the entire class to make an epic comeback. Lu Chiuping also dropped her thug vibe and managed to get accepted into a pretty good university. I enjoyed the warmth of family life back in the Mew household. My parents and sisters all spoiled me immensely. Even though I'm still sharp-tongued and love to roast people, they know that I'm kind-hearted deep down, so they all tolerate my little temper tantrums. Life in the mortal realm is honestly pretty great. As for my identity as the young master of Princess City, I'll just wait until I fully experience this lifetime before going back.